What would you do if the man you just married threw a plate at you on your wedding night? Would you walk away? Would you stay and try to understand? Because that's exactly what happened to me. Only it wasn't just a plate that shattered. It was everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and the future we were supposed to build together. A stunned silence fell over the room as the plate shattered against the floor. My husband had thrown it aimed at me, though it barely missed. The sound of the crash rang louder than the vows we had exchanged just hours before. Gasps rippled through the wedding hall, but I couldn't move. My mind raced, my heart pounded, and my cheeks burned with a mixture of rage and humiliation. I locked eyes with him, hoping for regret, for an apology. Anything but his face was nothing but fury. For the first time, I saw a man I didn't recognize. My fingers gripped the edge of the table, my body trembling as I fought back tears. That night, I walked out, leaving my dress in a heap on the floor. I swore I'd never speak to him again, but the phone call I received the next day turned my world upside down. I had always believed in love, the kind that feels like home, where you laugh without fear and cry without judgment. That's what I thought I had found in Jasper. He wasn't just my boyfriend. He was my best friend, my rock, the one who knew me better than anyone else. We met in college, bonding over late-night study sessions and cheap takeout. Over the years, we built a life together, piece by piece, dream by dream. When he proposed, it felt like the natural next step, like the next chapter in a story we had been writing all along. Our wedding day was meant to celebrate everything we had built. Friends and family filled the room, toasting to our future. But beneath the surface, cracks had begun to form. Small arguments about finances, disagreements about priorities. I brushed them off, convinced they were just normal pre-wedding jitters. Then, at the reception, the unthinkable happened. We had argued over something trivial, like a misplaced seating card, but his anger escalated in a way I had never seen before. And when the plate flew, so did my world. I left that night, still in shock, replaying the moment over and over. Was this the man I had promised to spend my life with? Was this the love I had believed in so fiercely? Little did I know, the real turning point wasn't that night. It was the call I never expected the next day. The morning after the wedding, I woke up in a daze. My head throbbed, the emotions of the night before still echoing in my body. I had slept on my sister Willow's couch, the remnants of my wedding makeup smeared across my face. She handed me a cup of coffee, her expression full of concern. "What are you going to do?" she asked softly. "I don't know," I murmured, staring at the steam rising from my mug. My mind felt like a whirlwind of anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could Jasper, the man I thought I knew so well, have acted this way? I replayed the scene in my head, the plate flying, his face twisted in rage, and the hushed murmurs of our guests as I stormed out. By mid-morning, the whispers had turned into rumors. Friends texted, trying to piece together what had happened. Social media was a minefield of wedding photos and well-meaning captions like, "What a beautiful night." The contrast made my stomach churn. Then, the phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Jasper. My hand hovered over the decline button, but something in me hesitated. I let it go to voicemail. When I finally listened to his message, his voice was shaky. "I know I messed up," he began. "Please, just let me explain. I need to see you." The nerve of him. After everything, he wanted me to hear him out? My anger flared anew. I decided I wouldn't answer. Instead, I began plotting a way to make him feel the pain I'd felt. I spent the next few days crafting my plan. He had humiliated me in front of everyone, so I wanted to return the favor. I envisioned showing up at his workplace, spilling everything to his colleagues, or maybe I'd share the story online, ensuring he'd never live it down. Each idea felt satisfying at first, but something gnawed at me. A small voice in the back of my mind asking, "What will this achieve?" Still, I silenced it. My pride demanded justice. One evening, as I scrolled through photos from the wedding, my anger deepened. There he was, smiling beside me in the earlier moments of the day, as if nothing was wrong. I felt like a fool. That's when I decided to confront him, not for closure, but to deliver the first blow of my revenge. I called him and agreed to meet at a quiet cafe. When I walked in, he was already there, sitting at a corner table. He looked disheveled, his tie loosened, and his face pale. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said, his voice barely audible. I crossed my arms and stayed standing. "You've got 10 minutes. He sighed deeply and ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know where to start, but I owe you an explanation. What happened that night?" He trailed off, his eyes clouding with shame. "I don't need excuses, Jasper," I snapped. "You threw a plate at me on our wedding day. That's not something you just apologize for and move on." His eyes widened. "I wasn't aiming at you, He stopped himself, taking a deep breath. "I know that doesn't make it okay. I lost control. I've been under so much pressure, work, the wedding, everything, and I just snapped." His words felt hollow, but there was a vulnerability in his tone I hadn't expected. Still, I wasn't ready to let him off the hook. "Pressure? What's your excuse? Do you have any idea how humiliating that was for me?" "I know," he said quietly, "and I hate myself for it. But there's more to it, Serafina. I've been struggling with something I didn't know how to tell you about." I froze. Struggling? What was he talking about? Jasper hesitated before continuing. "A few months ago, I started having these episodes, anger, frustration, like I couldn't control myself. It scared me, but I didn't want to burden you. I thought I could handle it on my own." I stared at him, trying to process his words. Was this genuine or just another excuse? "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice softer now. "I didn't want to ruin things," he admitted. "I thought if I just pushed through it, it would go away. But that night, it all came out in the worst possible way. I've been seeing someone, a therapist, to figure out what's going on." The revelation hit me like a tidal wave. Part of me wanted to scoff, to call him out for not trusting me sooner. But another part, the part that still cared, felt a pang of compassion. I left the cafe that day with a mind full of questions, my heart still raw and aching. The idea of revenge that had once felt so justified now seemed empty, like a hollow echo of the anger I couldn't let go of. Over the next week, I struggled to reconcile my feelings. On one hand, I was still devastated, still furious with him. On the other, there was the sincerity in Jasper's words, which refused to fade away. Could I really believe him? Could I ever consider forgiving him after everything? Willow became my rock during this time, my sounding board. "You don't owe him anything," she said, always the voice of reason. "But maybe it's not just about him. Maybe it's about what you need to move forward." Her words hit home, settling deep within me. What did I need? Revenge had seemed like the perfect answer at first, but the more I dwelled on it, the more it felt like a burden I wasn't willing to carry. I had to ask myself, did I want to be defined by my anger? Or could I find a way to rise above it? In the quiet moments of reflection, memories of my relationship with Jasper flooded back. I thought about how he'd been there for me during my mother's illness, how he'd stayed up with me, helping me study for my certification exam. These memories didn't erase the hurt, but they complicated my feelings. I realized my anger wasn't just about that night, the shattered plate, the humiliation. It was about a betrayal of trust, a feeling that the foundation of our relationship had cracked, leaving me questioning everything. If I wanted peace, I needed to address that, not through revenge, but through honesty. With trembling hands, I picked up my phone and dialed Jasper's number. "Can we talk?" I asked, this time not seeking revenge, but answers and perhaps a way forward. We met at a park near my apartment. The air was crisp, and the scent of freshly fallen leaves filled the atmosphere. The distant sound of children playing added an odd sense of normalcy to what felt like a pivotal moment in my life. He stood by a bench, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, his shoulders slumped. As I approached, he looked up, his eyes weighed down by exhaustion, and maybe a glimmer of hope. "Thanks for coming," he said, his voice soft. I sat down, making sure to keep a safe distance. "This doesn't mean anything yet," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "I need to understand not just what happened that night, but everything that led up to it." Jasper nodded, his jaw tightening as he took a deep breath. "You deserve that. I just hope you'll believe me." And then he spoke, slowly, carefully. He told me about the months before our wedding, how his job had been overwhelming him, the impossible demands, the panic attacks he'd been hiding, the sleepless nights. He admitted to feeling unworthy of me, convinced he was failing as a partner before we even began our life together. "It's not an excuse," he said, his voice breaking. "I let everything bottle up, and I lashed out in the worst way possible. I've been working with my therapist to understand why I let myself get to that point, to fix it. But I know I might never fix what I did to you." I sat in stunned silence. I had expected defenses, excuses, and maybe even deflection. Instead, he was taking full responsibility. No justifications, no blame shifting. For the first time since that night, I felt like I was seeing the Jasper I used to know. Then he said something that caught me completely off guard. "I'll sign the divorce papers," he said, his voice trembling. "If that's what you want, I won't fight you on it. But before we go there, I need you to know something." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. Hesitant, I took it and opened it to find a handwritten letter. "It's from your mom," he said. My breath caught in my throat. My mom had passed away 2 years earlier, and her loss still felt like a raw wound. "How?" "She gave it to me a month before she died," Jasper explained. "She told me to hold on to it and give it to you when you needed it most. I know I've lost the right to decide that for you, but I think now might be the time." My hands trembled as I unfolded the letter. Her familiar handwriting blurred as tears filled my eyes. "My dearest Serafina, if you're reading this, it means you're facing something you feel you can't handle. I wish I could be there to hold your hand, but since I can't, let me remind you of something you've always known deep down. You're stronger than you think. Life will hurt you sometimes, in ways you can't imagine, but it's not the pain that defines you. It's what you do with it. Choose love, Serafina, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's courage. And no matter what happens, know that I believe in you." The letter ended there, but the words lingered, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. I folded the paper and looked at Jasper, who was watching me with cautious eyes. "You didn't have to do this," I whispered. He shook his head. "I owed it to you. I owed it to her. She believed in us, and I let her down. I let you down." Yet for the first time since that night, the anger inside me began to soften. It wasn't gone, but it no longer burned as fiercely. I realized that while Jasper had hurt me deeply, clinging to my rage wasn't healing the wound, it was keeping it open. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet," I said, my voice steady, "but I'm willing to try. Not for you, or even for her, for me, because I need to let go of this anger if I'm ever going to move forward." Jasper's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. As we sat there, the heaviness of the past started to lift, replaced by something much lighter, an unfamiliar sense of hope. It wasn't resolution, not yet, but it was a small step toward healing. For the first time, I could almost believe that healing was possible. The days following our conversation were anything but easy. Healing isn't neat or smooth. It's messy, unpredictable, and often doesn't feel like healing at all. I spent hours reflecting on the words my mom had written and the discussion I'd had with Jasper. For so long, I had thought of forgiveness as excusing someone's actions, as letting them off the hook. But the letter my mom had given me reframed it. Forgiveness wasn't about making what happened okay. It was about choosing not to carry that weight with me any longer. I took a step I had been hesitant to take before. I started therapy, My therapist helped me unpack not just the events of that night, but also the years of small cracks in my relationship with Jasper. She encouraged me to recognize that, while his actions were wrong, they didn't define him or me. I wasn't weak for feeling conflicted, nor was I naive for wanting closure rather than revenge. Jasper and I agreed to limit our communication to therapy-facilitated sessions for a while. We both needed the space to heal individually before we could even consider what, if anything, might come next. In those sessions, I began to see parts of Jasper that I hadn't noticed before. He was vulnerable in ways I hadn't expected. He spoke about his childhood, the constant pressure to succeed, and the shame he carried for not being able to manage his emotions. He didn't ask for my forgiveness directly. He knew that was something I had to find on my own, but he expressed sincere regret for his actions and his commitment to change. For me, those sessions weren't about giving him another chance. They were about reclaiming my voice. I spoke honestly about the pain his actions had caused me and the trust he had shattered. Saying those things out loud, in a safe space, was both painful and liberating. Outside of therapy, I began to rebuild my life. I threw myself into my work, took up yoga, and reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. Willow continued to be my biggest support, always there with a cup of tea and a grounding perspective when I needed it. One afternoon, she said something that really stuck with me. "You know, you're stronger now than you were before all this happened, not because of him, but because you chose to face it head-on." Her words resonated deeply. The strength I was finding didn't come from the situation itself, but from how I chose to respond. I also started volunteering at a local women's shelter, helping others who had experienced emotional or physical abuse. Hearing their stories reminded me that healing is different for everyone. Some found closure by walking away and never looking back, while others found it by mending broken relationships. What mattered was that the choice was theirs, and now I knew the choice was mine. Months later, I ran into Jasper at a bookstore. It was an unexpected encounter, and it felt awkward at first. We hadn't seen each other outside of therapy sessions since that day in the park. He looked healthier, more grounded, and there was a calmness in him that hadn't been there before. We exchanged a few words, but there was no lingering tension, no uncomfortable silence. Just two people, standing in a moment of mutual understanding as different versions of who we once were. "Hi, Serafina," he said, his voice gentle. "How are you?" I hesitated before answering. "I'm better," I admitted. "How about you?" He nodded. "Same. Still working on myself, but it's getting easier." We ended up chatting for a while, sharing small updates about our lives. It felt oddly natural, like two old friends catching up. When we parted ways, I didn't feel the familiar sting of anger or sadness. Instead, I felt a quiet sense of peace. A few weeks later, during one of our final therapy sessions, the topic of our future came up. Jasper spoke first. "I don't expect anything from you, Serafina," he said, his tone earnest. "But I want you to know that I'm grateful for the chance to show you I could be better, even if it's too late for us." I took a deep breath, gathering the words I had rehearsed over and over in my mind. "I've spent a lot of time thinking about this," I began slowly. "And I've come to realize that forgiveness doesn't mean we go back to what we were. I forgive you, Jasper, because I need to free myself from the pain. But I believe it's best if we move forward separately." His eyes shimmered, but he nodded silently, understanding. "I get it," he whispered, his voice barely audible. That decision wasn't easy. It was heartbreaking, but it felt right. Forgiving Jasper didn't mean forgetting or excusing what had happened. It meant releasing the anger that had been consuming me, allowing myself to move forward with peace. In the months that followed, I began to rebuild my life. I moved into a new apartment, a space I could truly call my own. I filled it with plants, soft lighting, and furniture that felt comforting. The solitude, while lonely at times, became an opportunity for self-discovery. I rediscovered passions I'd left behind, like journaling. Writing became my therapy, a way to work through the emotions I had been bottling up, and also a way to reflect on how far I'd come. I wrote about my anger, my pain, and, over time, my gratitude for the lessons I had learned. One evening, I found myself reading my mom's letter again. Her words felt even more profound now than they did that day in the park. I realized that choosing love, as she had advised, didn't mean staying in a toxic relationship. It meant loving myself enough to walk away. It meant allowing Jasper to find his own path to healing, separate from mine. Letting go of the grudge didn't erase the past. It didn't erase the hurt or the betrayal, but it changed how I carried it. I no longer saw myself as a victim of what had happened. Instead, I saw myself as someone who had faced something deeply painful and had emerged stronger. Jasper and I lost contact after that final session, but through mutual friends, I learned that he continued his therapy and eventually began mentoring others struggling with anger issues. Hearing that he was trying to make amends in his own way gave me a sense of closure. As for me, I began writing a blog about resilience and forgiveness. I shared my journey with the hope of helping others who might be facing similar heartbreak. The responses I received from women who had experienced their own pain and found strength in it reminded me that our stories have the power to heal not only ourselves, but also others. In the end, the greatest act of revenge wasn't about hurting Jasper or making him pay for his actions. It was about choosing to heal, to forgive, and to build a life that felt whole again. My mom was right. Forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was courage. And in choosing it, I found a peace I never thought possible. Forgiveness isn't just a gift we give to others. It's a gift we give ourselves. Letting go of anger doesn't mean forgetting or excusing what happened. It means choosing freedom over bitterness, healing over hurt. My journey taught me that while pain can shape us, it doesn't have to define us. We all face moments when we have to decide whether to hold on or let go. It's never easy, but letting go can transform our lives in ways we never imagined. What about you? Have you ever been in a situation where forgiveness seemed impossible but ended up being exactly what you needed? Or have you found strength in letting go of a grudge? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Your journey could inspire someone else to take their first step toward healing. Let's start a conversation about courage, growth, and the power of letting go. Have you ever found yourself at a crossroads where holding on to anger seemed easier than forgiving, but you realized that letting go was the only way to move forward? What if forgiveness wasn't just about the other person, but about your own healing? Serafina's wedding day ended in chaos when her husband, Jasper, threw a plate at her during an argument, shattering the perfect image she had of their future. In the days that followed, anger and betrayal clouded her judgment, tempting her toward revenge. However, after a heartfelt conversation with Jasper and a letter from her late mother, Serafina found herself reconsidering the path of forgiveness. Through therapy, reflection, and support from her sister Willow, she realized that forgiveness was not about excusing Jasper's actions, but about freeing herself from the weight of anger. Ultimately, Serafina chose peace, not revenge, and learned to move forward with a newfound sense of strength. From a perspective of emotional resilience, this story highlights the internal struggle many people face when confronted with deep hurt. Serafina's journey is a testament to the power of emotional self-care and the importance of self-forgiveness. Her decision not to retaliate, but to focus on healing, reveals how revenge often weighs us down more than the original betrayal. The story also challenges the idea that forgiveness means reconciliation. It doesn't necessarily mean returning to the old relationship, but rather creating space for personal growth and healing. In this case, the true strength came from the ability to choose peace over bitterness, a decision that required far more courage than lashing out. What would you do if the person who hurt you deeply asked for forgiveness, but you knew that offering it would mean letting go of your pride and anger? Could you find peace without making them pay for what they did? Have you ever struggled with the decision to forgive someone who hurt you? Or have you found strength in letting go of a grudge, even when it seemed impossible? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else take that first step toward healing. Let's talk about the power of forgiveness and the courage it takes to move on.
The sound of shattering glass echoes through my boutique as Isabella hurls another designer handbag across the stockroom. I close my eyes and count to 10, reminding myself that I didn't spend 15 years building this business from nothing just to let my stepdaughter destroy it in 15 minutes. This collection is garbage, Isabella announces, her perfectly manicured hand waving dismissively at the carefully curated spring line I'd spent months sourcing. Daddy's friends wouldn't be caught dead carrying these. I'm Talia, and 6 months ago, I made what I'm starting to think might be the biggest mistake of my life. I married into the McCormick family. Don't get me wrong, I love Reed. He's everything I could want in a husband. It's his daughter who's making me question everything. Those bags are handcrafted by artisans in Italy, I explain, keeping my voice steady. They're exclusive pieces that, whatever. Isabella cuts me off, pulling out her phone. I need $50,000 for the wedding florist. Harold says we absolutely must have imported peonies for the centerpieces. My stomach drops. 50,000? For flowers? Don't be so provincial, Talia. She rolls her eyes, already tapping away at her screen. I've already told Harold yes, just transfer the money to my account like usual. Like usual. As if my boutique is her personal ATM. I think about the long nights I spent sleeping on a cot in this very stockroom, saving every penny to keep my dream alive. About the time I lived on ramen noodles for 3 months straight to make payroll during the recession. Isabella, we need to talk about your spending. I start, but she's already heading for the door, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floors. Oh my God, you sound just like my last stepmother. She pauses at the threshold, throwing me a look that could freeze hell. And we both know how that ended. The bell above the door chimes as she exits, leaving me alone with the mess she's made. I pull out my phone and dial Penny's number. Let me guess, my best friend answers on the first ring. Hurricane Isabella just blew through? She wants 50 grand for wedding flowers. I sink into my office chair, surveying the damage. That's on top of the 100,000 she's already blown through this month. Girl, you need to tell Reed, Penny says. This is getting out of control. I've tried. I massage my temples, feeling a headache coming on. He just says she's stressed about the wedding and to let her have this moment. Her moment doesn't need to bankrupt you, Penny points out. What does Noah think about all this? My brother's voice echoes in my head from our conversation last week. You're too soft, Tal. She's walking all over you because you let her. Before I can respond, my office door opens and Reed walks in, looking handsome in his tailored suit. My heart still skips a beat when I see him, even after everything. There's my beautiful wife, he says, leaning down to kiss me. His smile fades when he sees my expression. What's wrong? Isabella was just here, I begin carefully. Reed, we need to discuss. His phone buzzes, and he holds up a finger. Sorry, honey, I need to take this. But listen, Isabella mentioned something about wedding flowers. Just handle it, okay? Whatever she needs, I'll make it up to you. He's gone before I can protest, leaving behind only the lingering scent of his expensive cologne. I stare at the broken glass on the floor, at the scattered inventory that represents thousands in potential profits, and something inside me shifts. My phone pings with a notification. It's an email from Isabella to Harold, the wedding planner, CCing me on the payment details for the flowers. The amount has somehow grown to 75,000. That's it, I mutter, opening my laptop. Time to see exactly where my money's been going these past few months. Penny's voice comes through the phone I'd forgotten was still connected. Tal, you still there? Yeah, I reply, fingers flying over the keyboard as I access the boutique's accounts. But I'm done playing nice stepmommy. If Isabella wants to treat my life's work like her personal piggy bank, she's about to learn what happens when you break things that don't belong to you. What are you going to do? I pause, watching as the transaction history loads on my screen. I'm going to give her exactly the wedding she deserves. Another email notification pops up, Isabella demanding I process the payment immediately. I click delete and smile for the first time today. She has no idea what's coming. The numbers on my screen don't lie, but I check them again anyway. $250,000 in unauthorized transfers over the past 3 months. My hands shake as I scroll through the transactions, each one like a knife in my gut. You need to see this, I tell Noah over the phone. Can you come by the boutique? 20 minutes later, my brother's examining my laptop screen, his usual easy smile replaced by a deep frown. She's forging your signature on these transfers, Tal. That's straight up fraud. I know. I pull up another document. Look at this email chain. She's been corresponding with vendors using my business email account, authorizing payments I never approved. Noah whistles low. Does Reed know? Before I can answer, the boutique's front door chimes. Isabella saunters in, followed by her friend Skylar. They're giggling about something until Isabella spots me behind the counter. Finally, I've been trying to reach you all morning, Isabella says, her voice sharp. The flower payment still hasn't gone through. That's because I didn't approve it, I reply, standing straighter. We need to talk about these unauthorized transfers, Isabella. Skylar's eyes widen, and she takes a small step back. Maybe I should wait outside. No, stay, Isabella commands, then turns to me. What unauthorized transfers? Daddy said I could use the boutique account for wedding expenses. Reed said you could use some funds, within reason, I correct her. Not empty out my business accounts. Isabella laughs. But there's no humor in it. Your business accounts. Last I checked, you married into our family. Everything here is technically Daddy's anyway. Noah steps forward, his presence solid and reassuring beside me. That's not how it works, Isabella. The boutique belongs to Talia. She built it before she met your father. And who are you supposed to be? Isabella sneers. I'm her brother, and I'm also a financial advisor who knows fraud when he sees it. Isabella's perfectly composed face cracks for just a second. Fear flickers in her eyes before she masks it with contempt. Whatever, I'm calling Daddy. She pulls out her phone, manicured nails clicking against the screen. Go ahead, I say quietly. While you're at it, explain why you've been forging my signature and accessing accounts you're not authorized to use. Skylar gasps. Bella, you said Talia was handling all the payments. Shut up, Sky, Isabella snaps, then forces a smile as she puts the phone to her ear. Daddy, you need to come to the boutique right now. Talia's being impossible about the wedding expenses. 20 tense minutes later, Reed arrives, looking harried. What's going on? I was in the middle of a meeting. Show him, Noah tells me. I turn my laptop around. Reed, look at these transactions. She's trying to ruin my wedding. Isabella cuts in, tears suddenly streaming down her face. She's always been jealous of me, of our family's position. Now she's making up lies about me stealing. Making up lies. I pull up the email chain. Here's you impersonating me to vendors. Here's a forged signature on a bank transfer. Here's... Enough, Reed raises his hands. Isabella, is this true? Daddy, please, she sobs. You said I could use the money. I said you could have reasonable wedding expenses covered. Reed's voice is dangerously quiet. Not commit fraud. I think, Noah interjects, we should all sit down with the accountants and go through these transactions in detail. Isabella's tears dry up instantly. This is ridiculous. I'm leaving. No, you're not, Reed says firmly. You're going to sit down right now and explain exactly what you've done. Fine, Isabella shouts, mask finally cracking completely. You want to know what I did? I took what I deserved. What's a few $100,000 to this family anyway? Daddy spends that much on a weekend in Vegas. The boutique falls silent. Skylar looks mortified. Noah shakes his head. Reed's face has gone pale. I think, I say into the silence, we should continue this discussion at the house, with our lawyers present. Isabella's laugh turns hysterical. Lawyers, really? You're going to sue me, your precious stepdaughter, over a few wedding expenses? I meet her eyes steadily. No, Isabella, I'm going to hold you accountable, maybe for the first time in your life. She grabs her purse and storms toward the door, pausing only to spit out, "You'll regret this. Nobody comes between me and my wedding. Nobody." As the door slams behind her, I notice an email notification pop up on my screen. It's from Isabella to Harold, the wedding planner, sent just minutes ago. "Proceed with everything as planned. I don't care what it costs. Someone will pay for it all one way or another." I forward the email to my lawyer, then look at Reed. "We need to talk." "You're not actually going through with this, are you?" Penny asks, watching me sort through the stack of financial documents spread across my dining room table. "The wedding's in 3 days. That's exactly why I have to do it now." I hold up a bank statement covered in highlighted transactions. "Look at this." She's even billing personal shopping sprees as wedding decorations. Noah enters with his laptop, setting it beside the papers. "I've got something you need to see, Tal." He pulls up a video file. "Security footage from the boutique. Watch this." The grainy footage shows Isabella entering, after hours, using a key she shouldn't have. She goes straight to my office, sits at my computer, and starts typing. "When was this?" I lean closer to the screen. "Last week. I had the IT guy check your computer logs. She's been accessing your email, sending authorizations to vendors, and deleting the records." Penny whistles. "That's next level crazy." My phone buzzes. A text from Reed. "Can we talk?" "Isabella's devastated." "Devastated," I read aloud, laughing without humor. "She's devastated that she got caught, maybe." "What did Reed say when you showed him everything?" Penny asks. "He's in denial. Keeps saying there must be some misunderstanding." I start typing a response, but delete it. "He's at Isabella's place now, probably letting her manipulate him again." Noah closes his laptop. "You know what you have to do, sis." "The video presentation at the reception." I nod. "Everything's ready?" "Almost. Just need to add this new footage." The doorbell rings, making us all jump. Through the window, I spot Melina, Reed's sister, standing on the porch. I open the door, and she rushes in without waiting for an invitation. "You won't believe what I just heard," she says, dropping her designer bag on the table. "I was at the country club with Skylar, and she told me Isabella's been lying to everyone about the wedding budget." "What do you mean?" I ask. "She's been telling Thomas's family that you and Reed are paying for everything, because you insisted. That it's your wedding gift to them." Melina's eyes flash with anger. "She's made you look like some desperate stepmother trying to buy her way into the family." My hands clench into fists. "Of course she has." "There's more," Melina continues. "She's been spreading rumors that you're jealous of her relationship with Reed. That you're trying to come between them." Noah stands up. "That's it. We're showing the video at the reception." "No," Penny interrupts. "You need to stop this before the wedding. Think about Thomas. He doesn't deserve to be humiliated in front of everyone. Thomas needs to see who he's really marrying." I counter. "And everyone else needs to see who Isabella really is." My phone buzzes again. Another text from Reed. "Coming home. We need to talk." "He's going to try to talk you out of this," Melina warns. "Isabella's got him wrapped around her finger." "Not this time," I say, gathering the documents. "Noah, finish the video." "Penny, I need you to." The front door opens, and Reed walks in. He stops short at the sight of all of us. "Family meeting?" he asks, attempting a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "Just going over some interesting financial records," I reply. "Want to join us?" He sighs, loosening his tie. "Talia, honey, I know Isabella made some mistakes, but she's agreed to pay everything back. Can't we just move past this?" "Move past this?" Melina stands up. "Reed, your daughter committed fraud. She's been lying to everyone, including Thomas's family. She's young." Reed protests weakly. "She got carried away with the wedding planning." "She's 28 years old," I say, my voice steady. "And this isn't about the money anymore. This is about consequences. What are you planning?" He looks at the papers, the laptop, our faces. "The truth," I answer simply. "Everyone's going to know the truth." "You'll destroy her," Reed says quietly. "No," I correct him. She destroyed herself. I'm just making sure she can't destroy anyone else. My phone pings with an email notification. It's from Harold, the wedding planner, forwarding a message from Isabella. Don't worry about the budget anymore. I've taken care of everything. Talia won't be a problem after tomorrow. I show the email to Reed. His face pales as he reads it. Still want to defend her? I ask. He sinks into a chair, suddenly looking older than his years. Do what you have to do, he says finally. Just make it quick. I nod to Noah, who opens his laptop again. Let's finish this video. As we work, another email arrives, this time from Thomas's mother, thanking me profusely for my generous gift of paying for the entire wedding. Attached is a screenshot of a message from Isabella, claiming it was all Talia's idea. I add it to our evidence. 3 days until the wedding, and Isabella has no idea what's coming. The church is a masterpiece of white flowers and crystal decorations, exactly what you'd expect from a wedding that supposedly cost close to $500,000. I sit in the third row, watching Isabella float down the aisle in her designer gown, looking every bit the innocent bride. You okay? Penny whispers beside me. I nod slightly, feeling the USB drive in my clutch like a loaded weapon. The video is ready. Noah checked it 3 times this morning. Thomas stands at the altar, beaming at his bride with complete adoration. My stomach twists. He has no idea that the woman he's about to marry used stolen money to create this fairy tale. If anyone knows any reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. Penny squeezes my hand. We both stay silent. This isn't the time. Not yet. After the ceremony, I find Reed in the church vestibule. He hasn't spoken more than 2 words to me since yesterday. Last chance to stop this, he says quietly. Last chance for Isabella to come clean, I counter. He runs a hand through his silver hair. I talked to her again this morning. She swears she'll pay everything back. With what money, Reed? The money she's still stealing from my business. Before he can respond, Harold approaches us, tablet in hand. Talia, I just wanted to thank you again for being so generous with the budget. The reception venue looks absolutely stunning. I force a smile. I'm sure it does, Harold. Every penny well spent, right? He beams, oblivious to the tension. Isabella said you insisted on sparing no expense. Such a wonderful stepmother you are. As Harold walks away, Reed won't meet my eyes. Maybe she really does feel guilty, he suggests weakly. Let's find out. I head for the church exit, where limousines wait to take us to the reception. The grand ballroom of the country club is even more extravagant than the church. Crystal chandeliers sparkle above tables laden with imported flowers and custom place settings. A string quartet plays softly in the corner. Everything's set, Noah murmurs as he passes by. Videos queued up for right after the father-daughter dance. I spot Isabella holding court with her bridesmaids, Skylar among them. They're all laughing about something until Isabella sees me watching. She excuses herself and sashays over, enjoying the wedding, Talia. Her smile is pure venom. I hope you're taking notes. This is how real society events are done. Not like those little boutique parties you throw. It's certainly impressive, I agree. I especially like all the personal touches you've added with my money. Her smile doesn't waver. Careful, Talia. You wouldn't want to make a scene at my wedding. What would Daddy think? Don't worry about scenes, Isabella. I'm more interested in presentations. Something flickers in her eyes. Uncertainty, maybe fear. But before she can respond, the DJ announces it's time for the father-daughter dance. I watch Reed lead Isabella onto the dance floor as Butterfly Kisses plays. They spin slowly, and for a moment, I see what Reed sees. His little girl, his princess. Then I remember the security footage of her sneaking into my office. The forged signatures, the lies. Melina appears at my elbow. Ready? Almost. I scan the room. Where's Thomas? By the bar with his parents. They're still gushing about your incredible generosity. The dance ends to applause. Isabella curtsies dramatically, blowing kisses to the crowd. Reed makes his way back to me, his expression troubled. What's wrong? I ask. She just told me she's already spent the money for next month's boutique inventory on the honeymoon. I stare at him. And, you're right, this has to stop. I signal to Noah, who heads for the DJ booth with the USB drive. Isabella's at the head table now, whispering with Thomas, probably feeding him more lies. Ladies and gentlemen, the DJ announces, before dinner is served, we have a special presentation prepared by the family. Isabella's head snaps up. This isn't on her meticulously planned schedule. The lights dim. The giant screen behind the head table flickers to life. Isabella's own voice fills the ballroom. Of course Talia doesn't know. She's such an idiot. I've been forging her signature for months. The security footage plays next, showing her breaking into my office. Then the bank statements appear, highlighted transactions scrolling past as Isabella's emails to vendors flash on screen. The ballroom is dead silent, except for gasps and murmurs. Thomas's mother stands up, her face white with shock. Skylar covers her mouth with her hand. And Isabella, she's frozen in her seat, watching her carefully constructed world crumble on the giant screen before her. The lights come up, all eyes turn to the head table. Thomas slowly pushes his chair back, standing up. Isabella, his voice cracks. What is this? She opens her mouth, but for once, Isabella McCormick has nothing to say. The silence lasts exactly 3 seconds before Isabella finds her voice. It's all lies, she shrieks, jumping to her feet. Talia doctored those videos. She's trying to ruin my wedding because she's jealous. Jealous? I stand up slowly. Let's talk about the truth, Isabella. Show everyone your phone. Show them the banking app you used to transfer my money. Thomas turns to his new wife, his face ashen. Did you steal the money for our wedding? Of course not, baby. Isabella grabs his arm. Daddy, tell them I had permission. Reed steps forward, and for a moment, I think he might cave again. But he shakes his head. No more lies, Isabella. We found your hidden account. We have the proof. Mrs. Francis, Thomas's mother stands up, her voice shaking. You told us Talia insisted on paying for everything. You said it was her wedding gift. That's right. Isabella's mascara starts to run. She promised, and now she's trying to humiliate me. Noah clicks to the next slide. Isabella's email to Harold appears. Don't worry about telling Thomas where the money's coming from. His family is too middle class to understand how things work in our world anyway. Thomas jerks away from Isabella like he's been burned. Middle class? Is that what you think of my family? No, Thomas, please. She reaches for him, but he backs away. Skylar stands up from the bridesmaids' table. You told me Talia was handling all the payments. You made me lie to vendors. The room erupts in chaos. Guests start whispering. Phones come out, and Isabella's perfect wedding dissolves into a social media nightmare in real time. I can explain everything, Isabella screams over the growing noise. This is all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I walk toward the head table, pulling out my phone. Should we call the police? Let them decide if fraud and theft are just misunderstandings. You wouldn't dare, but her voice wavers. Try me. Thomas's father, a respected judge, rises from his seat. I believe we've heard enough. Thomas, come with us. We need to discuss annulment options. Annulment? Isabella's voice rises to a shriek. No, Thomas, don't listen to them. I love you. Love me? Thomas laughs bitterly. You love my family's connections. That's what this was all about, wasn't it? Social climbing. That's not true. But Isabella's eyes dart around the room, calculating, still looking for an escape route. Melina steps forward. Should we show them the texts about Thomas's unfortunate background and how you plan to fix his family's image once you were married? Isabella lunges for her phone, but she's too late. The next slide is already playing. Screenshots of her messages to Skylar. Once I'm married, I'll have access to his trust fund. Then I can finally ditch these new money pretenders and live like I deserve. Thomas turns away, his shoulders shaking. His mother wraps an arm around him and leads him toward the exit. Half the guests follow, leaving their untouched dinner plates behind. "Daddy!" Isabella runs to Reed. "Do something. She's destroying everything." Reed looks at his daughter, really looks at her, maybe for the first time. "No, Isabella, you destroyed everything yourself." She spins around, mascara streaking down her face, and points at me. "This is your fault. You'll pay for this. I'll sue you for defamation." "With what evidence?" Noah asks calmly. "The truth is its own defense." Isabella grabs her champagne glass and hurls it at the screen. It shatters against her own frozen image, the one from the security footage showing her forging my signature. "I hate you," she screams at me. "I hate all of you." She runs for the exit, but stops dead when she sees the crowd of guests outside, phones raised, capturing her meltdown for posterity. "Isabella," I call after her, "the boutique's keys, now." Her hand shakes as she digs through her wedding purse and throws the keys at my feet. Then she pushes through the crowd and disappears into the night. The remaining guests stand in stunned silence. Harold, the wedding planner, looks like he might faint. Skylar is crying quietly in a corner. Reed touches my arm. "I'm so sorry," he whispers. "I should have seen it sooner." "Yes, I agree. You should have." Penny appears with my coat. "Want to get out of here?" I look around at the expensive decorations, the untouched food, the evidence of Isabella's theft still projected on the wall, all of it paid for with my money, my hard work. "Not yet," I say, turning to face the shocked crowd. "I think it's time for my own announcement, because while Isabella was busy planning her fraudulent fairy tale, I've been planning something else entirely. Something that will ensure she never gets her hands on my business again." I step up to the microphone, and the room falls silent once more. "I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight." I begin, my voice steady, despite the chaos of the last few minutes. "While this evening hasn't gone as planned, I have an announcement of my own to make." The remaining guests turn to face me. Phones still recording. Perfect. For 15 years, my boutique has been more than just a business. It's been my dream. A dream that someone tried to destroy for their own selfish gains. I pause, letting that sink in. But sometimes, when people try to break you, they only make you stronger. Noah gives me a thumbs up from the back of the room. Reed stands frozen, watching me intently. "I'm pleased to announce that next month, my boutique will be launching an exclusive partnership with the International Women's Artisan Collective. We'll be featuring handcrafted pieces from female entrepreneurs across the globe, with a portion of all proceeds going to support women-owned businesses in developing countries." Melina starts clapping, and others join in. I hold up my hand. But that's not all. Thanks to some recent events, I've realized the importance of protecting what you've built. So tonight, I'm also announcing the creation of the Phoenix Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping women rebuild their businesses after financial fraud or theft. The doors burst open. Isabella storms back in, her wedding dress muddy at the hem. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" "Security," Harold calls weakly, but Isabella's already marching toward me. "You want to talk about fraud?" she snarls, grabbing the microphone. "Let me tell you all what kind of woman Talia really is. She married my father for his money. That's enough." Reed's voice cuts through the room like a whip. "Isabella, stop embarrassing yourself." "Embarrassing myself?" She laughs hysterically. "Daddy, she just destroyed my wedding, my life." "No," Thomas says from the doorway. "He's come back in. You destroyed your own life. And you tried to destroy mine too." Isabella spins toward him. "Baby, please. Don't." He holds up his hand. "The police are outside. They'd like to talk to you about the fraud charges." The color drains from Isabella's face. "Police? But Daddy won't press charges. Will you, Daddy?" "The charges aren't coming from Reed," I say quietly. "They're coming from me, and from Thomas's parents, who wrote you quite a few checks based on your lies." Two police officers enter the ballroom. Isabella backs away from them, looking wildly around the room. This isn't fair. None of this is fair. You deserve consequences, I interrupt, for once in your life. The officers approach Isabella. One of them starts reading her rights. She struggles as they take her arms, her designer dress ripping at the shoulder. I'll get out, she shrieks, as they lead her away. And when I do, you'll be sorry, all of you. The doors close behind them, muffling her threats. The remaining guests stand in shocked silence. Well, Penny says brightly, who wants champagne? A nervous laugh ripples through the crowd. The string quartet, who've been frozen in place this whole time, tentatively begins to play again. Thomas approaches me slowly. I had no idea, he says, about any of it. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, I tell him. She fooled a lot of people. He nods, then turns to Reed. Sir, I don't even know what to say. Reed puts a hand on his shoulder. Go be with your family, son. We'll sort everything out later. As Thomas leaves, Reed turns to me. The Phoenix Foundation. When did you plan all this? While your daughter was planning her wedding, I reply. I had to do something productive with my anger. Ms. Carter, a reporter from the local paper approaches, notebook in hand. Could we get a statement about tonight's events? I smile. Of course. But first, let me tell you about the amazing women artisans I'll be working with. Hours later, after the last guests have gone and the staff is cleaning up, I sit at an empty table with Reed, Penny, Noah, and Melina. Well, Penny raises her glass. That was one hell of a wedding. To karma, Melina adds. To new beginnings, Noah suggests. Reed takes my hand under the table. Talia, I know I should have listened sooner. I just never wanted to believe. I know, I squeeze his hand. The question is, what happens now? Now, he looks around at the half-dismantled wedding decorations. Now we rebuild. Together, if you'll let me. My phone buzzes, a news alert. Isabella's arrest is already making headlines. Below, it is another alert. My boutique's website is crashing from too much traffic. I raise my glass. To rebuilding then, and to karma. We clink glasses as the last wedding flowers are cleared away, making room for whatever comes next. 3 weeks after the wedding that wasn't, I'm standing in my newly renovated boutique, surrounded by colorful hand-woven textiles and artisanal jewelry from around the world. The grand reopening is in full swing, and the place is packed. Another reporter wants to talk to you. Penny calls from near the entrance. This one's from Forbes. Send her back, I say, adjusting a display of hand-beaded bags from a women's cooperative in Guatemala. The reporter, a sharp-looking woman named Claire, doesn't waste time with pleasantries. Your story has captured national attention. How does it feel to turn a personal crisis into a movement? Before I can answer, the boutique's door chimes. Thomas walks in, looking much better than the last time I saw him. Excuse me, I tell Claire. We can continue this in a moment. Thomas meets me halfway across the store. I wanted to stop by before I leave town, he says. I got a job offer in Seattle. Fresh start, you know? How are you holding up? He manages a small smile. Better. The annulment went through yesterday. My parents wanted me to thank you again for testifying. Thomas, Reed emerges from my office, where he's been handling calls all morning. I didn't know you were coming by. Just saying goodbye, sir. Thomas straightens his shoulders, and returning this, he pulls out a check. It's everything my parents gave her for the wedding. We sold the gifts and liquidated the honeymoon reservations. Reed takes the check, then pulls Thomas into a surprise hug. Take care of yourself, son. You deserve better. After Thomas leaves, Melina rushes over. You need to see this, she says, holding up her phone. It's a social media post from Skylar, a photo of Isabella entering a courthouse, with the caption, "Karma comes for us all. I'm sorry I ever helped her lie." Speaking of karma, Noah joins us, tablet in hand. The DA just called. Isabella's taking a plea deal. She'll have to pay restitution and serve 6 months, plus probation. Only 6 months, Penny frowns. Plus community service, Reed adds quietly. At a women's shelter. The irony isn't lost on any of us. Claire the reporter clears her throat. Mr. McCormick, how do you feel about your daughter's sentencing? Reed looks at me, then back at the reporter. I feel like it's exactly what she needs. Sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their actions. The boutique's door chimes again. This time it's a group of women from the International Artisan Collective, their arms full of new samples. Talia, Maria, their coordinator, hugs me warmly. The first shipment sold out in 2 days. We need to double the next order. Triple it, I say, leading them to the display area. And wait until you see where we're putting your pieces in the new store layout. New store? Claire perks up. You're expanding. 3 new locations, Noah confirms, all featuring work from women entrepreneurs worldwide. The Phoenix Foundation will provide microloans and mentorship programs. And security systems, Penny adds with a wink, really good ones. The afternoon flies by in a blur of interviews, sales, and celebrations. As the sun sets, I find myself in my office with Reed, looking at the framed article on my wall, From Fraud Victim to Philanthropist, How One Woman Turned Betrayal into Triumph. I got a letter from Isabella today, Reed says softly. She asked me not to show it to you. What did it say? That she's sorry, that she wants to make things right. He sighs. That she needs help. Do you believe her? I don't know, but I do know this. You showed her something she's never seen before. What's that? That actions have consequences, and that real strength isn't about taking what you want. It's about building something that matters. A knock at the door interrupts us. It's Maria with the International Artisan Collective. Talia, we have something to show you, she says excitedly. The women in our Guatemala cooperative named their newest design after you. They're calling it the Phoenix Collection. She holds up a stunning handbag, hand-woven in vibrant reds and golds. The tag reads, Rising from ashes, we soar together. It's perfect, I whisper, touching the intricate pattern. Reed wraps an arm around my waist, just like its namesake. Through the office window, I can see the boutique full of customers, reporters, and artisans. Penny's showing Claire the new collection. Noah's explaining the foundation's mission to a group of interested investors. Melina's helping a young entrepreneur fill out a loan application. This, I realize, is what victory really looks like. Not revenge, but renewal. Not destruction, but creation. Ready to go back out there? Reed asks. I pick up the Phoenix bag, more than ready. We've got work to do. The women's correctional facility looks exactly like I imagined. Stark and institutional. I follow the guard down a long hallway, my heels clicking against the linoleum floor. She's not expecting you, the guard says, stopping at a metal door. Are you sure about this? I nod. After all these months, it's time. Isabella sits at a metal table in the visitation room, wearing a beige jumpsuit that's a far cry from her designer wardrobe. She looks up as I enter, and for a moment, I see genuine shock on her face. What are you doing here? She asks, her voice hoarse. I place a folder on the table between us. I brought you something. She doesn't touch it. If this is about more charges, it's an application, I interrupt. For the Phoenix Foundation's rehabilitation program, for when you get out. Isabella stares at me like I've grown a second head. Is this some kind of joke? No joke. I slide the folder closer. The foundation helps women rebuild their lives after financial mistakes, even deliberate ones. Why would you help me? Her eyes narrow. After everything? Because revenge wasn't the point, Isabella. Change was. She opens the folder, slowly, like it might bite her. I don't understand. Your father showed me your letters. All of them. Including the ones where you talked about wanting to start your own business someday. Those were private, she whispers. They were honest. Maybe the first honest things you've written in years. She looks down at the application, then back at me. Does Daddy know you're here? Reed knows. So does Thomas. At Thomas's name, she flinches. How is he? Happy. His tech startup in Seattle is doing well. Isabella's fingers trace the foundation's logo on the application, a phoenix rising from flames. I really messed up, didn't I? Yes, you did. I lean forward. But you can either let that define you, or you can use it to change. Why should I trust you? But there's less venom in her voice now, more uncertainty. Because I'm offering you something no one else has, a chance to earn your way back, not with lies or manipulation, but with actual work. She's quiet for a long moment, reading through the application. It says here participants have to do community service at women's shelters and financial literacy programs, teaching others what you learned the hard way. And if I complete the program, then you'll have the skills and support to start your own legitimate business. But you'll have to build it yourself, brick by brick, no shortcuts. Isabella wipes at her eyes with the heel of her hand. I don't deserve this chance. Maybe not, but you're getting it anyway. The question is, what will you do with it? She picks up the pen I brought, then hesitates. What about everyone else? The people I hurt? That's part of the program too. Making amends takes time. She starts filling out the application, her handwriting shaky but determined. I'm sorry, she says suddenly, not looking up. For everything. I know. When she finishes, I take the application and stand. Someone from the foundation will be in touch about next steps. Talia, she calls as I reach the door. Thank you for not giving up on me completely. Don't thank me yet. The hard part's still coming. Outside the prison, Reed is waiting in the car. How did it go? I show him the completed application. She's ready to try. And you're ready to let her? The foundation isn't about holding grudges. It's about building bridges. I buckle my seatbelt, even the scary ones. Reed starts the car. You're a better person than most. No, I correct him. I just finally understand the difference between justice and vengeance. My phone buzzes with a text from Penny. New artisan collection just arrived. Wait till you see what they've created. Another message pops up. This one from Noah. 5th location's paperwork is ready. You're officially going national, sis. I smile, thinking about the journey from that first confrontation in my boutique to now. About how sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best changes we make. Ready to head back to the shop? Reed asks. Actually, I pull up the foundation's website on my phone, where Isabella's story is already being added to our testimonials. I think I'm ready for whatever comes next. Because that's the thing about rising from ashes. You never know how high you might soar, or who might end up rising with you. The guard waves us through the prison gates, and I don't look back. There's too much ahead to keep watching what's behind.
The call came on what should have been my happiest day of the year, my 10th wedding anniversary. I was arranging roses in our dining room, humming to myself, when my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in a decade. My mother's number. My name is Brinley, and the last time I saw my parents was the day I told them I was marrying Javier. I still remember my mother's face turning to stone, my father's thunderous silence. "You'll destroy everything we've built," they said. "This isn't what we raised you for." "Brinley," my mother's voice crackled through the speaker, sounding older, frailer than I remembered. "Please don't hang up." I gripped the phone tighter, my other hand frozen mid-arrangement. "How did you get this number?" "Sadie, your sister." She thought it was time. Of course. Sadie, my younger sister, the eternal peacemaker. She'd kept in touch over the years, secretly meeting me for coffee, sending photos of her kids, always careful to keep it from our parents. "What do you want, Mum?" The words came out sharper than intended, but 10 years of silence does that to a person. "We need to meet. Your father and I. We need to talk to you about something important." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Important? Like my wedding wasn't important enough for you to attend?" "Brinley, please." Her voice cracked. "Things are different now. We're in trouble." The doorbell rang and I heard Javier's voice calling from the hallway. "Mi amor, the caterers are here." "Mum, I have to go. We're having an anniversary party tonight." 10 years, she whispered. "Has it been that long?" "Yes. 10 years since you and Dad chose your precious reputation over your daughter. We were wrong. The words hung in the air, stunning me into silence. Please, meet us tomorrow. The Carter family store? It's failing. We need your help. I nearly dropped the phone. The store, my family's pride and joy for 3 generations. The reason my parents couldn't accept Javier, a newcomer without the right pedigree to join their legacy. Brinley? Javier appeared in the doorway, his dark eyes concerned. Everything okay? I held up a finger, turning back to the phone. Tomorrow, noon. But not at the store. Meet me at Riverside Cafe. Thank you, my mother breathed. We'll be there. I ended the call just as Javier wrapped his arms around me. Was that my mother? I leaned back against his chest, letting his warmth steady me. The family business is failing, and suddenly they need our help. Our help? He raised an eyebrow. The same help they rejected when I offered to modernize their operations before the wedding? Karma's a funny thing, isn't it? I turned to face him. The successful consulting firm you built, the one they said would never work, might be their only hope. What are you thinking? He knew that look in my eyes. I'm thinking it's time they faced their mistakes, publicly. I smiled, but it wasn't entirely kind. They wanted to hide me away, pretend their daughter hadn't married outside their precious social circle. Now they'll have to acknowledge us, accept us if they want our help. Careful, mi amor. Javier touched my cheek. Revenge isn't always sweet. This isn't about revenge. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure. It's about justice, making things right. The doorbell rang again, and voices filled the hallway. Our anniversary guests arriving. I heard Mateo's booming laugh, saw Angela's silver hair through the window. We should get ready, Javier said, but he didn't move. Are you sure you want to do this? I thought about the day my parents turned their backs on me, the empty chairs at our wedding, the birth of our first child, announced through Sadie because our parents wouldn't accept the news directly. A decade of holidays spent creating new traditions because the old ones had been ripped away. Yes, I said firmly. Tomorrow we'll hear what they have to say. But this time, we set the terms. Javier kissed my forehead. Together? Together. I squeezed his hand, then straightened my shoulders. Now, let's go celebrate 10 years of proving them wrong. As we walked toward our waiting guests, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. My parents had been so worried about Javier destroying their legacy. Instead, he might be the only one who could save it. Tomorrow would be interesting indeed. I arrived at Riverside Cafe 20 minutes early, choosing a corner table that gave me a clear view of the entrance. My hands shook slightly as I arranged the manila folder containing our company's portfolio. A decade of success laid out in crisp numbers and glossy photos. The bell above the door chimed, and there they were. My mother, her hair more silver than I remembered, clutching her designer purse like a shield. My father, shoulders slightly stooped now, but still carrying himself with that unmistakable pride. They spotted me immediately. Brinley. My mother's voice wavered. She moved as if to hug me, then stopped herself, settling into the chair across from me instead. You look wonderful. Success agrees with me. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Would you like to order first, or should we get straight to business? Always direct, my father said, a ghost of approval in his tone. Just like you, I cut him off. Let's not pretend we're here for a family reunion. A waitress appeared and we ordered coffee. The silence stretched until she returned with our drinks. The store is 3 months away from bankruptcy, my father finally said, his hands wrapped tightly around his cup. Everything we've built, everything my father built. And his father before him, I finished. I remember the speech, Dad. The one about legacy and tradition. The one you gave right before you told me I was no longer welcome in the family. My mother flinched. We were wrong, Brinley. So terribly wrong. Were you? Or are you only saying that because you need something from me now? We've lost touch with our customers, my father continued, ignoring the tension. The world's changed, and we haven't kept up. I pulled out my tablet, pulling up the store's public financial records. Your online presence is non-existent, your inventory system is outdated, and your main competitor is about to open a store 3 blocks away. They exchanged surprised looks. You've been keeping tabs on us? My mother asked. I keep tabs on all potential clients. I smiled thinly, though I never expected you'd become one. Will you help us? My father reached across the table, stopping just short of touching my hand. Your company, Javier's expertise in digital transformation, your marketing skills, we need you. Both of us. I raised an eyebrow. The same Javier you said wasn't good enough for your daughter, for your precious family business? Yes, my mother whispered. Both of you. I opened the manila folder, sliding across a document. These are our standard consulting terms, but for you, I have additional conditions. What conditions? My father's pride flickered back to life. First, a public announcement of our partnership. Not just a press release, but a formal event. You'll acknowledge Javier and me as your daughter and son-in-law, and you'll apologize for your past actions. Brinley, please, my mother started, but I held up my hand. Second, you'll attend family dinners, monthly, at our house. You'll get to know your grandchildren, the ones you've pretended don't exist for 10 years. My father's face reddened. You're using our desperation to force... To force what, Dad? Basic human decency? Family connection? The things you denied us because of your prejudice? We'll do it, my mother said suddenly. My father turned to her in shock. We'll do whatever it takes. We've lost too much already. I pulled out a business card and placed it on the table. Call this number tomorrow. It's Javier's direct line. He'll handle the initial consultation. You won't be there? My mother asked, looking stricken. Oh, I'll be involved. But first, Javier needs to assess whether your business can actually be saved, and you need to prove you can treat him with the respect he deserves. I stood, gathering my things. One more thing. Sadie told me you're having Sunday dinner this weekend. I expect an invitation. For all of us. The children too? My mother's eyes lit up despite herself. Yes, it's time they met their grandparents, assuming you're ready to be grandparents. As I turned to leave, my father called out, Brinley, wait! I paused. Are you doing this to punish us? I looked back at them, these proud, stubborn people who had shaped me in more ways than I cared to admit. No, Dad. I'm doing this to fix what's broken. All of it. Walking out of the cafe, I pulled out my phone and dialed Javier. How did it go? He asked. They agreed to everything, but you were right. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about healing. Ready for Sunday dinner? I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Not even close, but it's time, isn't it? Si, mi amo. It's time. The doorbell rang at exactly 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. My daughter Sophia, 8 years old and vibrating with excitement, raced to answer it. Wait, I called, smoothing my dress nervously. Let Mommy get it. But it wasn't my parents at the door. It was Sadie, holding a bottle of wine and wearing an apologetic smile. Thought you might need reinforcements. Aunt Sadie! Sophia launched herself forward. Behind her, 6-year-old Marco peeked around the corner. There's my favourite niece and nephew. Sadie hugged Sophia, then beckoned to Marco. Come here, shy boy. I brought cookies. You're early, I said, taking the wine. On purpose. Sadie followed me to the kitchen, the kids trailing behind. Mum's been ironing Dad's shirt 3 times. They're terrified. Good, I muttered, then caught myself as Sophia looked up questioningly. Why don't you two go show Aunt Sadie your new playroom? Once the kids were out of earshot, Sadie grabbed my arm. Listen, there's something you should know. Angela visited Mom yesterday. Angela? Dad's old business partner's wife? She told them about River Valley Mall's expansion plans. They're not just opening one store near ours, they're planning to take over the whole district. Mom and Dad's store won't survive 6 months, let alone a year. I leaned against the counter, processing this. That's why they're so desperate. There's more. Sadie lowered her voice. Angela's son works for River Valley. She said they specifically targeted our area because they knew the store was vulnerable. They're using Mom and Dad's outdated systems against them. The doorbell rang again. This time, there was no mistaking the formal measured chimes. My parents' signature ring. "Show time." Sadie squeezed my hand. I opened the door to find my mother clutching a casserole dish, my father standing stiffly behind her. "Welcome," I said, stepping aside. "We brought your favourite," Mom said quickly. "Chicken enchiladas. I got the recipe from that cooking show you used to love. The one you said was too ethnic for your kitchen." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Dad's face tightened, but Mom pressed on. "I was wrong about a lot of things, Brinley. The show, the food, everything." "Abuela!" Sophia appeared in the hallway, Marco half hidden behind her. "That's what you are, right? Our abuela?" Mom's eyes filled with tears. She set down the casserole dish with trembling hands and knelt, opening her arms. "Yes, mi querida, I'm your abuela." Sophia looked at me for permission. I nodded, and she stepped forward into my mother's embrace. Marco followed cautiously. "And I'm your abuelo," Dad said gruffly, his voice thick. "No," came a firm voice from behind us. Javier stood in the doorway, his expression hard. "You haven't earned that title yet. The kids will call you Mr. Carter until you prove you deserve more." A tense silence fell. Then Dad nodded slowly. "Fair enough." "Dinner's ready," I announced, ushering everyone toward the dining room. "Sophia, Marco, wash your hands, please." As the kids scampered off, Javier pulled out chairs for my parents. "Before we eat, I should tell you, I've reviewed your preliminary financials. The situation is worse than you've admitted." "How did you—" Dad started. "I have connections at the bank," Javier cut in. "If you want our help, no more secrets. River Valley Mall isn't just your competition. They're planning to destroy you." Mom's hand flew to her throat. "Angela told you." "No, my research team did. The question is, why didn't you tell us the full truth?" "Pride," Dad admitted quietly. "The same pride that cost us our daughter for 10 years. "Well, pride won't save your store," I said, serving the enchiladas. "But we might be able to, if you're willing to make real changes." "Whatever it takes," Mom said, watching Sophia and Marco return to the table. "We've missed too much already." The rest of dinner passed in a strange dance of awkward pauses and cautious conversations. The kids, oblivious to the undertones, chatted happily about school and their upcoming soccer games. As my parents prepared to leave, Mom hugged me tightly. "The enchiladas weren't as good as yours," she whispered. "Will you teach me?" "Baby steps, Mom," I said, but I was smiling. "Let's start with saving the store." After they left, Sadie lingered. "That went better than expected." "Maybe," I said, watching Javier put the kids to bed through the window. "But the real test starts tomorrow when we begin dismantling everything they've built to save what matters most." "The store?" "No," I shook my head. "The family." "This is worse than I imagined," Javier said, standing in the middle of my parents' store. Ancient inventory systems hummed in the corner and dust collected on half-empty shelves. "They're still using software from 2005. I ran my finger along a shelf, leaving a clean line in the dust. "Remember when you offered to upgrade their systems before our wedding? And your father said he'd rather close the store than let an outsider change things?" Mateo appeared from the stockroom, tablet in hand. "Well, he almost got his wish." Mateo, our head of operations, had been my friend since college and Javier's right-hand man in the business. He knew our history, knew exactly how much this project meant. "The inventory's a mess," he continued. "They're ordering stock based on gut feeling rather than data. And their supplier contracts," he whistled low. "They're being robbed blind." The bell above the door chimed and my parents walked in. Mum's eyes were red-rimmed, Dad's jaw set tight. "We've been here all morning," I said, gesturing to the scattered papers and open laptops. "Want to hear the truth?" "All of it," Dad said, though he looked like he'd rather run. "You're 3 weeks away from complete collapse, not 3 months," Javier said bluntly. "Your suppliers are overcharging you by 40%. Your inventory system is hemorrhaging money. And your customer base has dropped by 65% in the last year alone." Mom sank into a nearby chair. But how? We've run this store the same way for... That's exactly the problem, I cut in. The world changed, but you didn't, just like with me and Javier. Brinley, Dad warned, but I pressed on. No, Dad, you need to hear this. You rejected change in your personal life, and you rejected it in business. Now both are falling apart. We can fix the business, Matteo interjected smoothly, pulling up projections on his tablet. But it'll require complete modernization, new systems, new marketing, new everything. How much? Dad asked. $500,000, minimum, Javier said, plus our standard consulting fees. We don't have that kind of money, Mom whispered. No, I agreed. But Javier and I do. We're offering to buy in as partners. 51% stake. The colour drained from Dad's face. Majority control? You want to take over my father's store? I want to save it, I corrected. But we can't do that if you fight us every step of the way. No more pride, remember? The door chimed again. Angela walked in, her face falling when she saw us all gathered. Angela, Mom stood quickly. We're in the middle of something. I can see that. Angela's eyes darted between us. I just came to check. That is, I wanted to see how you were doing. Spying for your son at River Valley? Matteo asked casually. Angela's gasp was all the confirmation we needed. Mom turned to her, betrayal written across her face. You've been feeding them information? Desiree? Angela backed toward the door. They offered to help Tommy get promoted if... Get out! Dad's voice was ice. 20 years of friendship, and you've been helping them destroy us. After Angela fled, silence fell heavy in the store. Finally, Dad turned to Javier. 51%? Yes, but with conditions beyond what Brinley already stated. Javier pulled out a contract. You'll both take courses in modern retail management. You'll attend weekly family dinners, not just monthly. And you'll publicly apologize to Brinley at the reopening ceremony. When? Mom asked quietly. 3 weeks, I said. We'll close for renovations, rebuild everything from the ground up, just like we're rebuilding this family. Dad picked up the contract, his hands shaking slightly. We were wrong about you, Javier. About everything. I know, Javier said simply. The question is, what are you going to do about it now? Dad looked at Mom, who nodded tearfully. He picked up a pen and signed, then passed it to her to do the same. Welcome to the new Carter family store, Matteo grinned, though we might want to update that name too. McGregor Carter Marketplace, I suggested, blending traditions just like our family. Dad opened his mouth as if to object, then stopped himself. Yes, he said instead. That sounds right. As Matteo and Javier began discussing renovation plans, Mom pulled me aside. We don't deserve this second chance. No, I agreed. But family isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to try again, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Through the window, I could see River Valley's new sign being installed down the street. They thought they were circling a dying business, but they didn't know what was coming. They didn't know about the strength of a family finally learning to bend instead of break. These numbers don't add up, I muttered, spreading financial documents across our dining room table. It was past midnight, but something had been nagging at me all day. Javier, come look at this. He leaned over my shoulder, frowning at the papers. The supplier contracts? No, the bank statements. Look at these withdrawals from last year. I pointed to a series of transactions. Large amounts, all going to the same account, but they're not listed in the official expenses. Could be tax evasion? Javier suggested, but I shook my head. My father's too straight-laced for that. Something else is going on. My phone buzzed. Sadie calling at this hour, I answered immediately. You need to come to the store, she said without preamble. Now, Mom and Dad are here, and they're fighting with someone. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to see lights blazing inside the closed store. Through the windows, I could see my parents facing off against a man I didn't recognize. That's Richard from the bank, Javier whispered as we approached the door. Their loan officer. We walked in to catch the middle of the argument. You promised us more time, Dad was saying, his face red with anger. That was before you brought in outside investors, Richard shot back. The terms of our agreement were clear. What agreement? I demanded, making them all jump. Mum turned pale. Brinley, you shouldn't be here. What agreement? I repeated harder this time. Richard smiled unpleasantly. Should I tell her, or would you like to? We took out a private loan last year, Dad said quietly. Against the store. From? River Valley's parent company, Richard said smugly, with terms that give them first right of purchase if the store changes ownership, which you just triggered with your little partnership deal. The pieces clicked into place, the mysterious withdrawals, Angela's surveillance, all of it. You set them up, I said to Richard. You knew they were desperate and you gave them a poison pill. Business is business, he shrugged. River Valley wants this location and now they'll get it. Unless you can come up with $3 million by the end of the week. $3 million, Javier exclaimed. The loan was for $500,000. Plus interest and penalties. Richard pulled out a document. All legally binding. Get out, I said quietly. Now. After he left, I turned to my parents. When were you going to tell us? We thought we could fix it, Mom whispered. We were ashamed. Ashamed? I laughed bitterly. Like you were ashamed of me. Is that why you keep hiding things? That's not fair, Dad protested. No, what's not fair is asking for our help while holding back information that could sink everything. I was shouting now. We invested our money, our time, our trust in you. Mi amor, Javier touched my arm. Let's focus on solutions. Solutions? I threw up my hands. They need $3 million in 5 days. Actually, came a new voice. They don't. We all turned to see Mateo in the doorway, holding his tablet. I've been doing some digging since those numbers didn't look right to me either. Richard's been cooking the books at the bank. He's been working with River Valley to force small businesses into bad loans, then taking kickbacks. Can you prove it? Javier asked sharply. Mateo grinned. Already sent the evidence to the Banking Commission and the FBI. Richard's going to have bigger problems than this store very soon. Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by exhaustion. I sank into a chair, looking at my parents. No more secrets. Promise me. No more secrets, they said together. Good. I stood up. Because the reopening event is in 2 weeks, and we need to make it big. River Valley wants a war. Let's give them one. What are you thinking? Sadie asked. We're going to throw the biggest grand reopening this town has ever seen. Every media outlet, every influential person in the community will be there. And when Richard and River Valley's schemes come to light, I smiled grimly. Well, let's just say their new store won't have many customers. It's risky, Dad cautioned. Riskier than taking a predatory loan and hiding it from your family. He winced. Point taken. Mateo, I turned to him. Get me everything you have on Richard and River Valley. Mom, Dad, I need a list of every business owner they've tried this with. Sadie, start calling media contacts. And me? Javier asked, eyes twinkling. You and I are going to redesign this store until it makes River Valley look like a corner shop. As everyone dispersed to their tasks, Mom caught my arm. We don't deserve you, mihija. You're right, I said, but softened it with a smile. But you're stuck with me anyway. That's what family means. Looking around at our makeshift war room, I felt a fierce pride. River Valley thought they were dealing with a weak family business. They were about to learn what happens when you mess with a family that's finally truly united. The morning of the grand reopening, I stood in front of the store, heart pounding. The old Carter family store sign had been replaced with sleek modern letters spelling out McGregor Carter Marketplace. The windows gleamed, displaying artfully arranged local products and digital screens showing our new farm-to-table partnerships. The press is starting to arrive, Mateo said, checking his tablet, and you'll never guess who just pulled up. I turned to see Richard stepping out of his car, looking considerably less smug than 2 weeks ago. The FBI investigation had made headlines yesterday. Mrs. McGregor, he said stiffly, approaching us. I believe we can come to some arrangement. Save it, I cut him off. The only arrangement you'll be making is with federal prosecutors. You don't understand, he lowered his voice. River Valley's executives are on their way. They're prepared to offer twice the market value for the store. Javier appeared beside me, like they did with the Thompsons' bakery, the Chen's grocery, all those other families you helped them squeeze out. Richard's face reddened. Those were legitimate business deals. Those were predatory loans designed to fail, came my father's voice. He walked up, standing tall in his new suit. And we have proof. More cars were pulling up, news vans, local business owners, community members. And yes, there they were, River Valley's executives, looking far less confident than usual. Places, everyone, Sadie called out. We're going live in 5 minutes. The crowd gathered around the store's entrance, where we'd set up a small stage. Camera crews jostled for position as Mom joined us, holding Sophia and Marco's hands. Ready, I whispered to my parents. Dad squeezed my shoulder. Ready to make things right. I stepped up to the microphone, scanning the crowd. Thank you all for coming. Today marks not just the reopening of a store, but the rebirth of a family legacy. The cameras flashed as I continued. For 3 generations, this store has served our community. But somewhere along the way, we lost sight of what matters most. We became so focused on tradition that we forgot about progress. So afraid of change that we pushed away the very people who could help us grow. I saw Richard trying to slip away, but 2 FBI agents were already moving to intercept him. My parents made a mistake 10 years ago when they rejected my husband, Javier, because he didn't fit their image of tradition. They made another mistake when they trusted the wrong people who promised to help save this store. The River Valley executives shifted uncomfortably as several reporters turned their cameras their way. But today isn't about mistakes. It's about second chances. About admitting when you're wrong and working to make it right. I turned to my parents. Mum? Dad? They stepped forward and my father took the microphone. His hands were shaking slightly, but his voice was clear. 10 years ago, I let pride and prejudice cost me my daughter. I couldn't see that change doesn't mean losing who you are. It means growing into something better. He turned to face Javier and me directly. I was wrong. About everything. And I'm sorry. Mom stepped up next, tears streaming openly. We're sorry. To our daughter, to our son-in-law, to our grandchildren who we denied for so long, and to our community who trusted us to serve them honestly. I saw several reporters wiping their eyes as Mom continued, detailing River Valley's predatory practices and the families they'd hurt. The executives were already retreating to their cars, trailed by shouting journalists. And so, I returned to the microphone, we're not just reopening a store, we're starting fresh. With new ideas, new partnerships, and most importantly, a renewed commitment to family, both blood and chosen. The ribbon-cutting ceremony that followed was a blur of cameras and congratulations. Local business owners came forward with their own stories of River Valley's tactics. The FBI made their move on Richard. But what I remember most was the moment Sophia tugged on my mother's sleeve and said, "Can I call you abuela now?" The tears that sprang to Mom's eyes had nothing to do with the cameras. Later, as the crowd filtered into the store to explore, Javier pulled me aside. Look, he nodded toward the checkout area where Dad was showing Marco how to work the new digital register system. Never thought I'd see the day, I murmured. Change isn't always bad, Mom said, joining us. Sometimes it's exactly what we need. She hesitated, then added, We're having Sunday dinner at our house this week. If you're all free. I looked at Javier, who smiled and nodded. We'll be there, I said. All of us. Outside, workers were already taking down River Valley's coming soon sign down the street. Inside, our family was finally, truly, coming together. Sometimes revenge doesn't look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like healing, like growth, like love finding its way home. Sunday dinner at my parents' house felt surreal. The formal dining room I remembered from childhood had been transformed. The heavy curtains drawn back, family photos added to the walls, including several of my wedding that had been hidden away for a decade. "Sophia? Careful with the salad bowl," Mom called out as my daughter proudly carried it to the table. "Marco, would you help Abuela with the plates?" The word abuela still sounded strange coming from my mother's lips, but the smile it brought to Marco's face made it worth it. "Something smells amazing," Sadie said, walking in with a bottle of wine. She stopped short at the sight of the table. "Mom, are those—" "Enchiladas," Mom said, slightly defensive. "I've been practicing all week, Brinley's recipe." "With help," I added, sharing a smile with Javier. We'd spent 3 evenings teaching her, each session filled with more laughter than awkwardness. Dad emerged from his study, where he'd been reviewing the store's first-week numbers with Mateo. "Sales are up 200% from our previous best week," he announced, "and the online orders are overwhelming our system," Mateo finished. "Good problem to have." We settled around the table, the conversation flowing easier than I'd expected. Sophia was telling Mom about her soccer tournament when the doorbell rang. "Are we expecting someone else?" I asked. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. "Actually, yes," Dad said, getting up. "We invited Angela." The room went silent. I felt Javier tense beside me. "Before you say anything," Mom held up her hand, "just listen to her, please." Angela walked in, looking smaller somehow, clutching a familiar casserole dish. "I brought the green bean casserole," she said quietly, "like I used to." "Sit," Dad gestured to an empty chair. "Tell them what you told us." Angela set down the dish and took a shaky breath. "I've known your parents since before you were born, Brinley. Watched you grow up. When they cut you out, I should have said something. Should have fought harder. That doesn't explain why you helped River Valley," I said coldly. "No, it doesn't." She squared her shoulders. "Tommy, my son, he got in trouble, gambling debts. River Valley offered to help if I helped them. I was weak, scared. But seeing your family come together these past weeks, watching you all fight for each other..." She wiped her eyes. "I've given the FBI everything. All the communications, the secret meetings, everything. That's why the charges against Richard were expanded," Mateo realized. "Your testimony." Angela nodded. "River Valley's executives are being indicted next week. Tommy's agreed to testify too, in exchange for immunity." "Why tell us this now?" Javier asked. "Because I owe you the truth. All of you." She looked at my parents. "Your friendship meant everything to me. I betrayed that. I know I can't fix it, but..." She pulled out an envelope. "This is my resignation from the store's board of directors, and a cashier's check for my shares." Dad took the envelope but didn't open it. 20 years of friendship doesn't disappear overnight, Angela. Neither does betrayal. But if we can forgive ourselves for what we did to Brinley, we can try to forgive you too," Mom finished. I looked at my children, watching this adult drama unfold with wide eyes. What were we teaching them about forgiveness, about family? "Stay for dinner," I heard myself say. "Not because everything's okay, but because this is how we make it okay." Sophia jumped up. "You can sit next to me. I'm learning Spanish from Abuelo, want to hear?" The tension broke as Sophia launched into her newly learned phrases, making everyone laugh at her enthusiastic pronunciation. As we ate, I watched the strange family tableau before me. My parents teaching my children Spanish, Angela sharing stories about my rebellious teenage years, Sadie and Mateo arguing playfully about the store's next promotion, Javier's hand warm in mine under the table. "I have an announcement," Dad said as we finished eating. "Your mother and I have been talking. We're stepping back from day-to-day operations at the store." "What?" Sadie and I said together. "We'll stay on as advisors," Mom added. "But it's time for the next generation to take over. All of you, together." "Besides," Dad smiled, "we need more time for grandparent duties. Sophia's soccer games, Marco's art classes, and maybe," Mom looked at me hopefully, "weekly family dinners instead of monthly." I squeezed Javier's hand, feeling the years of hurt and anger finally, truly beginning to heal. I think we can manage that. To family, Sadie raised her glass. Old and new, chosen, and blood. To second chances, Angela added softly. To love, Javier said, looking at me with the same warmth I'd fallen for all those years ago. To all of it, I said, raising my glass to meet theirs. To everything we lost and everything we found again. Ready for this? Javier asked, straightening my necklace as we stood in the store's back office. Almost. I checked my reflection one last time. The local business awards ceremony would be starting soon, and our entire family was gathered for the announcement. Mom! Sophia burst in, wearing her first real party dress. Abuela's crying again. Happy tears, Mom said, following her in. The stores never looked better. She gestured to the wall where our old family photos now hung alongside news clippings about River Valley's executives being sentenced, our store's revival and the community's support. The ceremony's starting, Mateo poked his head in. They want us all out there. We filed into the main store area, transformed for tonight's event. Local business owners, community leaders, and reporters filled the space. Dad stood at the podium, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. When I took over this store from my father, he began, I thought I knew everything about running a business, about family, about life. He paused, finding my eyes in the crowd. I was wrong. The audience chuckled. This past year taught me that success isn't about holding on to the past. It's about embracing change. My daughter and son-in-law showed me that. They took a failing store and transformed it into something extraordinary. Not by erasing our history, but by building on it. I felt Javier's arm tighten around my waist as Dad continued. Tonight, we're not just celebrating McGregor Carter Marketplace winning Business of the Year. We're celebrating all the small businesses that stood together against corporate predators. We're celebrating family in all its forms. Angela, sitting with her son Tommy in the back, wiped her eyes. Their testimony had helped bring down River Valley's entire operation, protecting countless other family businesses. And so, Dad's voice grew stronger. I'm proud to announce our next chapter. We're launching a foundation to help other family businesses modernize and thrive, to offer the same second chance we received. Gasps and applause filled the room. This was the secret we'd been planning for months. The first grant, Mom stepped up to the microphone, goes to Thompson's Bakery to help them rebuild after River Valley's predatory practices. Mrs. Thompson burst into tears as her daughter hugged her. They'd lost everything to River Valley's schemes, and this would give them a fresh start. The foundation will be run by our children, Dad gestured to us. Brinley, Javier, and Sadie, because they understand better than anyone how to blend tradition with progress. As applause filled the room, Sophia tugged on my dress. Mama, can I tell them now? I nodded, lifting her onto the stage. My fearless 8-year-old grabbed the microphone. Hi everyone, I'm Sophia, and I have a surprise for my abuela and abuelo. She beamed at my parents. I entered our store's story in my school's writing contest, about how my family came back together. And I won. More applause as Sophia pulled out her carefully folded pages. Can I read it? Of course, mi amor, Javier called out. Once upon a time, Sophia began, my mama's parents didn't want my papa in their family because he was different. But then their store got sick, like when I got strep throat, and they needed help. Mama and papa fixed the store, but more importantly, they fixed our family. I watched my parents' faces as Sophia read, saw the tears and smiles as she described our journey through a child's eyes. Marco joined her on stage halfway through, adding his own commentary about Sunday dinners and learning Spanish with abuelo. When she finished, Dad lifted her into a tight hug. That's going on our wall, he declared, pointing to the family photo display. Later, as the party wound down, I found myself behind the old register where I'd worked as a teenager. The modern touchscreen glowed beside vintage photos of the store's early days. Penny for your thoughts? Sadie joined me, bumping my shoulder. Remember when I wanted revenge? I laughed softly. I thought making them need us would be the perfect payback. And instead we all got something better. We got our family back. Mom appeared with coffee cups. Your father's showing Marco how to count the register. Again. Third time this week, I smiled. He's making up for lost time, Mum said quietly. We both are. Through the window, I could see the empty shell of what would have been River Valley's store. The community had voted to turn it into a small business incubator instead. You know what's funny? I said, watching Sophia teach Mateo her victory dance while Javier and Dad laughed. I thought I was teaching you and Dad about change, about acceptance, but really... We all learned together, Mum finished, squeezing my hand. And there it was, the real victory. Not in revenge or redemption, but in the simple joy of a family dinner to plan, a store to run, and a future to build. Together.
The text message from my mother was crystal clear. Family meeting, 7 p.m., non-negotiable. I stood at my parents' front door, my hand hovering over the brass knocker, knowing whatever waited inside wouldn't be good. The perfectly manicured lawn and gleaming Mercedes in the driveway screamed success, the kind my family worshipped and I'd apparently failed to achieve. I am Melanie, the black sheep of the Gonzalez family. While my siblings collected degrees and accolades, like trading cards, I chose a different path, one that involved creating things with my hands and building something uniquely mine. The door swung open before I could knock. You're late, my mother said, her lips pressed into a thin line. Everyone's waiting. I checked my watch, 6:58 p.m. In my family, anything less than 10 minutes early was considered late. The living room fell silent as I entered. My sister Wendy sat primly on the edge of the leather sofa, her lawyer's briefcase by her feet. Louisa, fresh from her hospital shift, still wore her scrubs like a badge of honor. Nathan, my younger brother, didn't even look up from his phone. My father stood by the fireplace, hands clasped behind his back, like a general preparing for battle. Sit down, Melanie, he commanded, gesturing to the lone armchair facing everyone else. The setup reminded me of those intervention shows on TV. What's this about? I asked, remaining standing. Wendy reached into her briefcase and pulled out a document. We've been discussing the family's future, she said, in her courtroom voice, and we've come to a decision. A necessary one, my mother added, perching beside Louisa. For the good of the family. The document made its way into my hands. The legal jargon was dense, but certain phrases jumped out. Formal dissolution of familial ties, relinquishment of inheritance rights, termination of family association. You're disowning me? The words came out as a whisper. It's not personal. Nathan finally looked up. It's business. Business, I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet room. I'm your daughter, your sister. How is this not personal? Your choices reflect poorly on the family name, my father said. Your little craft hobby. My business, I corrected. Making trinkets in your apartment isn't a business, Louisa scoffed. It's embarrassing. Do you know how it feels when my colleagues ask what my sister does? We've given you every opportunity, my mother continued. The best schools, connections, resources, and you've thrown it all away to play with glue and glitter. I looked down at the document again, my hands steady despite the earthquake in my chest. Years of subtle jabs, disappointed sighs, and backhanded compliments had prepared me for this moment. They'd never understood me, never tried to. Where do I sign? My mother blinked, clearly expecting tears or pleading. Melanie, if you just reconsider your choices. Where do I sign? Wendy pointed to the bottom of the page. Initial here and sign here. There's a notary waiting in the study. 10 minutes later, it was done. I was no longer officially part of the Gonzalez family. The weight of their expectations, their judgment, their disapproval, all of it lifted from my shoulders. I hope you understand, my father said, as I headed for the door. This is for the best. I turned back one last time, taking in their faces, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. You know what's funny? You're so worried about the family name, about success and reputation, but you have no idea what I've actually built. You never bothered to ask. Melanie, my mother started. No, I cut her off. You've made your choice. Now you get to live with it. The door closed behind me with a soft click, far too gentle for the magnitude of what had just happened. My phone buzzed, a notification from my business account. Another major order had come in, pushing my monthly revenue well into 6 figures. Again, I smiled as I walked to my car, thinking about the stack of orders waiting to be filled, the upcoming collaboration with a major retailer, and the feature article being written about my innovative approach to sustainable crafting. They wanted to cut me off? Fine. They'd learned soon enough what they'd thrown away. Success, after all, is the sweetest revenge. As I drove away from the house I'd grown up in, I didn't feel sadness or anger. Instead, I felt something else entirely: freedom. The freedom to be exactly who I was, without apology or explanation. Family, I realized, isn't about sharing a name or DNA. It's about who believes in you when no one else will. And I had people in my life who did exactly that. They just weren't the ones I was leaving behind. You did what? Mara nearly spilled her coffee across my workshop table. 3 days had passed since the disownment, and I'd finally gathered the courage to tell my best friend. Sign the papers without arguing, I said, carefully applying gold leaf to my latest creation. You should have seen their faces. They expected tears, begging, maybe a dramatic breakdown. But your inheritance, Mel, the family connections, all of it, just gone? I set down my tools and looked at her directly. What inheritance? A share in a car dealership I never wanted. The privilege of being told I'm a disappointment at every family dinner. Ezra burst through the door, his laptop clutched to his chest like a lifeline. My marketing guru and business partner always had perfect timing. Mel, you need to see this. He spun his laptop around. Our latest collection just got picked up by Style & Home magazine. They're calling you the artisan revolutionizing sustainable home decor. Mara peered at the screen. Holy shit, Mel, these numbers. Is that really how much you're making? That's just last month. Ezra grinned. Wait until they see what we've got planned next. The eco-friendly packaging initiative alone is going to... My phone buzzed, another order notification, then another, and another. What's happening? I asked Ezra. He refreshed his browser. The article just went live. We're trending on social media. The sustainable living community is going crazy over your recycled material techniques. I walked to the wall of shelves, displaying my latest pieces. Handcrafted home decor made entirely from reclaimed materials. Each piece told a story. Discarded wood transformed into elegant wall art, salvaged metal reformed into striking sculptures, forgotten glass reborn as stunning light fixtures. We need to scale up, Ezra said, already typing furiously. I'm getting inquiries from 3 major retailers. They want exclusive collections. Mara squeezed my shoulder. And your family has no idea. They never bothered to look, I said, picking up a piece I'd finished that morning. A delicate wind chime, made from sea glass and driftwood. Too busy being embarrassed by their crafty daughter to notice she built a 6-figure business from scratch. 7 figures, actually, Ezra corrected, still typing. After these deals go through, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Is this Melanie Gonzalez? A woman's crisp voice asked. This is Catherine Chen from Business Forward magazine. We're doing a feature on emerging entrepreneurs in the sustainable luxury market. Your name keeps coming up. I caught Ezra's eye. He gave me a thumbs up. I'd love to hear more, I said, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. We're particularly interested in your journey. Young female entrepreneur, innovative approach to sustainability, rapid growth. Would you be open to an interview? Cover story potential. I thought about my family's faces when they saw me on the cover of a national business magazine. Absolutely. When were you thinking? After setting up the interview, I turned to find both Mara and Ezra staring at me. What? Business Forward, Ezra whispered. Do you know how huge this is? Their features can make or break companies. Mara hugged me tight. This is it, Mel. This is your moment to show them all. I pulled away and picked up my tools again. No, This is my moment to show myself. I've got orders to fill. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I hired 3 assistants to help with production. Ezra expanded our online presence and negotiated deals with retailers. Mara helped me prepare for the Business Forward interview. "Tell me again about your inspiration," she said one evening, playing reporter. I held up my latest piece, a chandelier made from broken mirrors and copper wire. "I see beauty in broken things, in the pieces others throw away. Everything has potential if you look at it the right way." "That's it," she said softly. "That's what makes your work special. You're not just making pretty things, you're telling stories of transformation." My phone buzzed with a text from Ezra. "Major department store wants to meet. Tomorrow, be ready." I looked around my workshop, once a dusty garage, now a thriving studio. Orders lined the walls. Half-finished pieces waited on workbenches. The air smelled of wood polish and possibility. "You know what the best part is?" I said to Mara, who was admiring the chandelier. "I'm doing exactly what I've always wanted to do. What they called a hobby is now an empire in the making." "Speaking of them," Mara hesitated. "Have you heard anything?" "Not a word." I picked up my tools again. "But they will. Soon enough, everyone will." The chandelier caught the setting sun, sending fractured light dancing across the walls. Like my life, I thought. Broken pieces, creating something unexpectedly beautiful. "Time to get back to work," I said, reaching for another piece of salvaged copper. "These orders won't fill themselves." There she is. Catherine from Business Forward rushed toward me, her heels clicking against the studio floor. "Our cover girl." She thrust the magazine into my hands. My face stared back at me, surrounded by my most intricate pieces. The headline read, "The Queen of Sustainable Luxury: How Melanie Gonzalez Turned Trash into Treasure." "The response has been incredible," Catherine gushed. "Social media's exploding. 3 major networks want interviews." Ezra burst in, waving his phone. "Mel, the website crashed from traffic. We've got wait lists forming for every piece. And that department store deal? They doubled their initial offer." I traced my finger over the magazine cover, still struggling to believe it was real. The article detailed everything: my creative process, business model, revenue growth. Everything except my family's rejection. "The Today Show called," Catherine continued. "They want you for Monday morning. Prime slot." My phone lit up with a text from Wendy. "My first contact with family in 2 months. We need to talk. Urgent family matters." I showed the message to Mara, who'd been quietly organizing orders in the corner. "Funny how you're suddenly family again," she muttered. Another text arrived, this time from Louisa. "Saw the magazine. Why didn't you tell us? Call me ASAP." "Ignore them," Ezra said, glancing at my phone. "We've got bigger things to focus on. The Singapore collector wants to commission 3 custom pieces, 6 figures each." Catherine cleared her throat. "Speaking of figures, Forbes is interested in featuring you in their 30 under 30 list." The notifications kept coming. "Nathan, Mom's upset. You should call her." Then my father. "We should discuss your recent publicity. Your story's inspiring people," Catherine said, oblivious to my family drama. "Young entrepreneur refuses to follow conventional path, proves everyone wrong. It's resonating. Especially the sustainability angle," Ezra added. "The video of you collecting materials from demolition sites went viral. People love seeing the transformation process." My phone buzzed again. My mother this time. "Family dinner, Sunday, 7 p.m. We have much to discuss." Mara read the message over my shoulder. "You're not going, right?" I set the phone down and picked up a piece of sea glass, turning it over in my hands. "Remember what you said about my work, Mara? About seeing beauty in broken things?" "Mel, no, they don't deserve." "I'm going." I cut her off. "But not for the reasons they think." The rest of the week was a whirlwind. The Today Show interview went viral. Orders flooded in faster than we could handle them. I hired 5 more assistants and leased additional workspace. "Look at these numbers," Ezra said during our Friday meeting. We've exceeded our annual projection in just 2 months. The sustainable luxury market can't get enough of your work. The waiting list for custom pieces is 6 months long," one of my assistants added. "Even with the premium pricing." I nodded, only half listening. Sunday's dinner loomed in my mind. Then my phone lit up with an email that changed everything. "Holy shit," I whispered. Ezra looked up. "What?" "The Museum of Modern Art. They want to feature my work in their upcoming exhibition on sustainable art." The studio erupted in cheers. Mara hugged me tight. "See? This is what happens when you believe in yourself." "When do they want to meet?" Ezra asked, already pulling up his calendar. "Next week, in New York?" I laughed. "They're sending a private jet." Sunday arrived too quickly. As I pulled up to my parents' house, I noticed all their cars were already there. The whole family, right on time as usual. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Catherine. "Breaking news. Your Business Forward feature just won us Magazine Story of the Year. Congratulations." I smiled, tucking the phone away. Perfect timing. The door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there, looking exactly as she had the night they disowned me. Except now her eyes held something new. Desperation. "Melanie, darling." She stepped forward for a hug I didn't return. "We've missed you." Behind her, I could see the rest of the family in the living room. Wendy with her briefcase again. Louisa pretending to read something on her phone. Nathan actually looking at me this time. My father still by his beloved fireplace. "Have you?" I asked, stepping past her into the house. "Or did you miss what I represent now?" The room fell silent. On the coffee table, I spotted copies of Business Forward. My face stared up at all of us, a testament to everything they'd dismissed. "We should talk," my father said, his voice lacking its usual authority. "About the future, about family." I sat in the same chair they'd put me in months ago, when they'd decided I wasn't good enough to be part of their family. "Yes," I agreed, smoothing my designer dress, paid for with my little craft hobby money. "Let's talk about the future." The silence in the living room was thick enough to cut. My mother bustled around, pouring tea nobody asked for, while my father cleared his throat repeatedly. "Your work is impressive," Wendy finally said, tapping the magazine cover. "The profit margins mentioned in the article are quite remarkable." "Remarkable?" I raised an eyebrow. "I thought it was just a hobby. Playing with glue and glitter. Wasn't that what you called it, Louisa?" Louisa shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "We may have been hasty in our judgments." "Hasty?" I took a sip of tea. "You disowned me, had it notarized." "About that," my father stepped forward. "We've been discussing as a family, and we believe it's time to rectify that unfortunate situation." "Unfortunate situation," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Wendy reached for her briefcase, always the lawyer. "I've drawn up papers to nullify the previous agreement. We can have it done today." "The timing seems convenient," I said, watching their faces. Right after the magazine cover, the TV appearances, the museum exhibition announcement. "Museum exhibition?" Nathan perked up. "Which museum?" "MoMA," I said casually, enjoying their shocked expressions. "They're flying me to New York next week. Private jet." My mother dropped a teacup. It shattered on the hardwood floor, but nobody moved to clean it up. "Melanie," my father's voice took on the tone he used for important business deals. "There's something else we need to discuss. The dealership is struggling." I finished for him. "I know. I did my research. The shift toward electric vehicles hit you hard. Banks aren't as friendly as they used to be." The color drained from his face. "How did you—" "I have good financial advisors now. They keep me informed about potential opportunities." "Then you understand," Wendy jumped in. "The family business needs to evolve. Your sustainable approach, your media presence, it could be exactly what we need." I laughed, the sound echoing in the tense room. "So that's what this is about. You don't want me back. You want my success to save you." "That's not fair," Louisa protested. "We're family, are we?" I stood up, walking to the fireplace, where family photos still hung. None of them including me. Because 3 months ago, in this very room, you made it very clear that I wasn't family anymore. People make mistakes, my mother said softly. We're trying to make it right. No, I turned to face them. You're trying to save yourselves. The dealership's facing bankruptcy, isn't it, Dad? And Wendy, that partner position you were promised. It fell through when your biggest client left. Louisa's hospital is cutting staff, and Nathan's research funding got pulled. They stared at me, shocked at how much I knew. Like I said, good advisors. We could help each other, my father insisted. Pool our resources. The Gonzalez name still means something in this city. My name means something, I corrected him. My work means something. And I did that without your help. Actually, I did it despite your active discouragement. My phone buzzed, a text from Ezra. Singapore collector doubled their offer. Again, says price is no object. I have a meeting, I said, gathering my things, with people who believed in me before the magazine covers and TV spots. Melanie, please. My mother grabbed my arm. We're sorry, we were wrong. What more can we say? I gently removed her hand. You know what's interesting about my work? I take broken things that people throw away and turn them into something valuable. But some things, once broken, can't be fixed. Some relationships, once shattered, stay that way. You're really going to hold a grudge? Nathan asked, after we've apologized. Apologized. I walked to the door. All I've heard are business propositions and convenient excuses. Not one of you has actually said you're proud of what I've built, or that you were wrong about my choices. You just want what I have now. That's not true. Wendy started. Save it. I cut her off. Keep your legal papers and your business proposals. I'm doing fine on my own. At the door, I turned back one last time. You know what the worst part is? If you'd supported me from the beginning, I would have helped you without hesitation. Family meant everything to me, but you taught me something valuable when you disowned me. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. I walked out, leaving them with their broken teacup and shattered pride. My phone buzzed again. Mara this time. How'd it go? Exactly as expected, I texted back. They want what I have, not who I am. Their loss, she replied. Studios packed with orders. Want to come help? Pizza's on me. I smiled, starting my car. On my way. Family dinner's overrated anyway. The sun was setting as I drove away, casting long shadows behind me, like the pieces I worked with. I'd been discarded, but found my own way to shine. Some might call it karma. I called it justice. The text came 3 days later. Dinner tonight, please. Dad. I showed it to Ezra during our morning meeting. Think he'll actually say please in person? Don't go, he said, not looking up from his laptop. We've got the MoMA meeting tomorrow, and the Singapore contracts need reviewing. I'm going. I picked up a piece of twisted metal, considering its potential. But this time, I choose the place. I texted back, La Maison, 8 p.m. I'll make reservations. The response was immediate. That's a bit expensive. I'm buying, I replied. Bring Mom. La Maison was the kind of restaurant my parents used to brag about going to before the dealership started struggling. I arrived early, wearing a designer dress that cost more than my old monthly rent. They walked in right on time, looking uncomfortable. The maitre d' recognized me immediately. Ms. Gonzalez, your usual table is ready. The chef sends his regards and asks if you'd like the special tasting menu he's prepared. My parents' eyes widened. I smiled. That would be lovely, Thomas. Thank you. Once seated, my father cleared his throat. Your usual table. I invest in local businesses, I said, sipping my water. This place included. The chef does amazing things with sustainable ingredients. My mother fidgeted with her napkin. Melanie, about Sunday. Let's order first. I cut her off as the sommelier approached. The 82 Bordeaux, please. The whole bottle. My father's face paled. I knew he recognized the 4-figure wine. Now, I said, after our glasses were filled. What's so urgent? They exchanged glances before my father spoke. The bank called in our loans, all of them. We have 30 days to either refinance or sell the dealership. And my mother jumped in. We've explored every option. Nobody's lending in this market, not to car dealerships, especially not to dealerships without a clear transition plan to electric vehicles, I added. The first course arrived, tiny works of art on pristine plates. My parents barely touched theirs. We need help, my father said finally. The words seemed to physically pain him. Your help. Financial help, I clarified. Not family reconciliation. Both, my mother insisted. We were wrong, Melanie, so wrong. Seeing what you've built, what you've become, what I've become, I set down my fork. I'm exactly who I was 3 months ago. The only difference is now I have money and influence. The second course arrived. My father still hadn't touched his first. We're not just asking for money, he said. We want to merge the businesses. Your vision, your sustainable approach, it could revolutionize the dealership. Electric vehicles, eco-friendly practices, and save the family name, I finished. That's what this is really about, isn't it? My mother reached for my hand. I let her take it, watching her face. We're losing everything, Melanie. The house, the business, our reputation. Like I lost my family. She withdrew her hand. The main course arrived, perfectly cooked Wagyu beef. The chef stopped by personally to check on us. Everything is perfect, Antonio, I assured him. The new sustainable menu is brilliant. After he left, my father leaned forward. How much? Excuse me? To save the dealership, how much do you want? I laughed. The sound drawing glances from nearby tables. You still don't get it. This isn't about money. It never was. Then what do you want? He demanded. Frustration breaking through his carefully maintained facade. I wanted you to love me for who I am, I said quietly. I wanted you to be proud of me before the magazine covers and TV spots. I wanted a family who saw my value without a dollar sign attached to it. The dessert arrived, a spectacular creation of spun sugar and gold leaf. My mother started crying silently. We can change, she whispered. We can be better. I signaled for the check. Maybe you can. But here's the thing. I don't need you to anymore. I don't need your approval, your connections, or your name. I built something beautiful out of what you threw away. The bill came. I handed over my black card without looking at the total. So that's it? My father asked. You'll let the family business die? Let us lose everything? I stood up, smoothing my dress. You taught me an important lesson when you disowned me. Business is business. It's not personal. Melanie, please, my mother started. I have an early flight to New York tomorrow. I cut her off. The museum's sending a car at 6. Enjoy the rest of your dinner. It's already paid for. I walked out of La Maison, leaving them with their cold food and colder reality. My phone buzzed, Mara asking how it went. They finally said please. I texted back. Too bad it was for the wrong reasons. The night air was cool on my face as I headed home. Tomorrow I'd be discussing my art in one of the world's premier museums. Tonight, I'd left my parents with the bill they never saw coming. The true cost of throwing away family for the sake of appearances. They offered what? Mara nearly fell off her chair in my New York hotel suite. 20 million, I repeated, still staring at the contract MoMA's lawyers had presented for a permanent installation and consulting role on their sustainable art initiative. Holy shit, Ezra whispered, pacing the room. That's not including the Singapore deals or the retail contracts. My phone buzzed. Wendy again. Dad's meeting with bankruptcy lawyers tomorrow. Please call. I ignored it, focusing on the Manhattan skyline outside my window. The museum's private car would arrive in an hour for the final contract signing. Your family's blowing up my phone too, Mara said. Your sister Louisa came by the studio yesterday. What did she want? To explain their side. Said they're about to lose the house. Nathan's moving back in with them since his research position got cut. Another text from my mother. Please come home. We need to talk as a family. Ezra stopped pacing. You know what's ironic? If they hadn't disowned you, your business wouldn't have grown this fast. You channeled all that hurt into your work. Speaking of work, Mara picked up a piece from my latest collection. A phoenix rising from twisted metal and broken glass. This is different, darker. It's for the museum installation, I said. I'm calling it Family Ties. My phone rang. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. You could save them, Ezra said quietly. 20 million would clear their debts, with plenty left over. I could, I agreed. But should I? Mara stood up, walking to the phoenix sculpture. Remember what you told me when you started this, about seeing beauty in broken things? This is different. Is it? She turned the piece, watching light play through the glass. Maybe this is your chance to transform something broken into something beautiful. My phone buzzed again. A text from Nathan. They're auctioning off Mom's jewelry tomorrow, even her wedding ring. They made their choice, I said. But my voice wavered. Ezra sat down, pulling up something on his laptop. Look at this. I've been running numbers. You could buy the dealership for pennies on the dollar right now. Transform it into an electric vehicle showroom. Your sustainable brand, plus their existing infrastructure. It could work, Mara added. But only if you want it to. A knock at the door interrupted us. A courier with a thick envelope. Inside was a letter from my father, handwritten. Melanie, I've written this letter 100 times in my head. Nothing sounds right. Nothing can excuse what we did. You were always the strongest of us, the most genuine. We were too blind to see it. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for a chance to be the father I should have been. To be the family you deserved. We're losing everything, but that's not why I'm writing. We lost what mattered most the day we signed those papers. We lost you. I'm proud of you. Not because of your success, but because of who you are. Who you've always been. Love. Dad. The paper shook in my hands. Mel? Mara asked softly. He said he's proud of me, I whispered. For the first time in my life. Ezra closed his laptop. The museum contract doesn't need to be signed today. We could postpone. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Louisa. Mom's in the hospital. Stress and exhaustion. She keeps asking for you. I looked at the phoenix sculpture, its broken pieces, forming something new, something stronger. Call the car, I said. We're making a stop before the museum. Where? Mara asked, though her smile suggested she already knew. The bank. I need to make some arrangements. And then, Ezra was already dialing. I picked up the phoenix, carefully wrapping it. Then we're going to save a family. But on my terms. What are you thinking? Mara asked. A new company, sustainable luxury vehicles, electric showrooms with my art installations, a complete reinvention of what the family business means. With you in charge, Ezra added. With me in charge, I agreed. They want to be family again. Fine, but we do it my way. No more hiding who I am. No more shame about being different. The prodigal daughter returns, Mara smiled, but this time, she's the one with the power. I looked at my father's letter again. Sometimes the things we break can be rebuilt stronger, but first, everyone has to admit they're broken. The car arrived as I finished packing the phoenix. It seemed fitting. This piece about resurrection would now witness one. Ready? Mara asked. I nodded, tucking the letter into my pocket. Time to show them what family really means and what it costs. We headed down to the waiting car, the phoenix carefully cradled in my arms. Its glass wings caught the sunlight, sending fragments of light dancing across the walls, broken pieces coming together to create something unexpected, something beautiful, just like family should be. The hospital waiting room fell silent as I walked in, the phoenix sculpture still in my arms. My siblings looked up from their phones, their faces a mix of surprise and relief. You came, Wendy said, standing. Where is she? I asked. Room 304. Louisa answered. Dad's with her. Nathan stepped forward. The doctors say it's mostly exhaustion. And, save it, I cut him off. We're having a family meeting, now. Conference room down the hall. All of you. They exchanged glances, but followed me. The phoenix found its temporary home on the conference room table, its shadows dancing across their tired faces. Before we see Mom, I said, pulling out a stack of papers, we're going to get some things straight. Is that? Wendy started, recognizing legal documents. A new company structure? Yes. I laid out the papers. The dealership gets restructured into Phoenix Electric, sustainable luxury vehicles. I'll clear the debts, invest in electric infrastructure, and integrate my art installations into the showrooms. Their eyes widened at the numbers. But, I continued, there are conditions. Of course there are, Nathan muttered. First, I'm CEO. Non-negotiable. Dad becomes chairman emeritus. Advisory role only. Each of you gets shares based on your contribution to the new vision, not family ties. Wendy reached for the papers. I pulled them back. I'm not finished. Second condition. The old family dynamics die today. No more judgment about life choices. No more forcing people into boxes they don't fit in. Is this revenge? Louisa asked quietly. No. I picked up the phoenix. It's resurrection. But first, you need to understand what you did. I faced each of them. Wendy, you drafted the papers to disown me. Louisa, you mocked my little hobby every chance you got. Nathan, you couldn't even look at me that night. Each of you chose status over sister. The room fell silent, except for the hum of fluorescent lights. We were wrong, Wendy whispered. Say it louder. We were wrong. She stood up, tears in her eyes. I was wrong. I let my own insecurities about success blind me. You built something amazing while I chased other people's definitions of achievement. Louisa joined her. I was jealous. You had the courage to follow your passion while I followed expectations. I'm so sorry, Mel. Nathan remained seated. I was a coward, he said simply. I knew they were wrong about you, but I stayed quiet. It was easier. I set the phoenix down. That's a start. Now, about Mom and Dad. The door opened. My father stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I heard everything, he said. The nurses said you were here, and I... He trailed off, staring at the phoenix. Dad, no. He held up his hand. My turn. He walked to the sculpture, touching it gently. This is beautiful, like everything you create. I was too proud, too stuck in my ways to see it. To see you. The company, Wendy started. Isn't what matters, he cut her off. Your mother's upstairs wondering if she'll ever see her daughter again. Not because of the money or the business, but because we threw away our child for nothing. I felt tears threatening, but held them back. Not nothing. You threw me away for appearances, for status, for the family name. And look where that got us. He gestured to the hospital walls. Our name means nothing now, but you built something real, something meaningful. He picked up the papers, reading quickly. These terms, they're more than fair, more than we deserve. Dad, you'd be giving up control, Nathan pointed out. Good, he said firmly. Look what my control did to this family. He turned to me. The company is yours. The family, that's up to you. I took a deep breath. Mom first. Then we sign. We rode the elevator in silence. Outside room 304, I stopped them. One more thing, I said. That disownment paper, I want it destroyed. Publicly, at the first board meeting of Phoenix Electric. Done, they said in unison. My mother was awake, looking small in the hospital bed. When she saw me, she started crying. My baby, she reached out. I'm so sorry, so sorry. I took her hand, feeling its trembles. I know, Mom, I know. We can't take it back, she said through tears. But can we try again, please? I looked around at my family, broken, humbled, but here. Like the materials I worked with, sometimes the most damaged pieces could be transformed into something stronger. Yes, I said, squeezing her hand. But this time, we do it right. All of us. The phoenix on the conference room table caught the setting sun, sending ribbons of light through the hospital window. Sometimes, I thought, resurrection comes at a price, but if everyone's willing to pay it, the result can be beautiful. The Phoenix Electric showroom gleamed under spotlight and camera flashes. My latest installation, a massive chandelier made from recycled car parts, dominated the entrance. Reporters jostled for position as my father cut the ribbon. And with that, he announced, "We welcome you to the future of sustainable luxury." Mara appeared at my elbow. Channel 7 wants an interview with the CEO. The CEO is busy admiring her work. I smiled, watching potential customers stream in. Ezra rushed over with his tablet. Pre-orders are insane. The sustainable luxury market is eating this up. Your art installations are trending on every platform. My mother touched my arm gently, a new habit she'd developed, as if making sure I was real. "Melanie, darling, the governor's asking about commissioning a piece for the State House. Tell him to call my assistant." I winked. "I'm very exclusive these days." Across the showroom, Wendy was explaining our innovative financing programs to a group of investors. Louisa had taken a part-time position, heading our medical transport division. Even Nathan had found his place, leading our research partnership with local universities. "Ms. Gonzalez," a reporter pushed forward, "how does it feel to revolutionize a traditional family business?" Before I could answer, my father stepped in. "My daughter didn't just revolutionize the business," he said proudly. "She saved it by being exactly who she always was." The reporter's eyebrows shot up. Even after the family drama, our sources say there was quite a rift. I met my father's eyes. Sometimes rifts create space for new foundations. Speaking of foundations, Ezra interrupted. Tablet extended. "The Sustainable Arts Foundation called. They want you to head their board." My mother squeezed my hand. "Go," she whispered. "We can handle things here." I shook my head. "Family first, business second. That's our new motto, remember." The showroom continued filling with people, admiring both the vehicles and the art. Each piece told a story of transformation, from the chandelier above to the small phoenix sculpture still perched on my desk. "Mel," Mara called out, "your sister's looking for you. Something about the community outreach program?" I found Louisa in the conference room, surrounded by blueprints. "We got approved," she announced. "The Youth Art Center can break ground next month." "In the old dealership lot?" "Where else?" she smiled. "From car sales to creating opportunities, very on brand for the new US. Nathan poked his head in. "Mom's getting emotional again. Dad's trying to handle it, but..." I followed him to find our mother wiping tears, surrounded by concerned guests. "Mom," I touched her shoulder. "You okay?" She pulled me into a hug. "I just never imagined all of this. You've made something so beautiful, inside and out." "We made it," I corrected her. "Once we stopped breaking things and started fixing them." Wendy joined us, champagne in hand. "To fixing things," she raised her glass. "And to my sister, who taught us that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones we almost throw away." The evening wound down. As the last guests left, my family gathered under the chandelier. Its shadows danced across our faces, broken pieces creating patterns none of us could have predicted. "The disownment papers," my father said suddenly. "We never did destroy them publicly." I walked to my office, returning with a document that had changed everything. "Actually," I said, "I had other plans for these." I handed pieces to each family member. Together, we walked to the art installation in the center of the showroom. A massive glass furnace, part of my live demonstration space. "The phoenix rises," I said, opening the furnace door. "But first, the old has to burn." One by one, we fed the papers into the flames. As they burned, I reached for the glass-blowing tools. "Watch," I told them, gathering the molten glass mixed with the paper's ashes. "This is how you make beauty from pain." Hours later, a new piece sat cooling. A small family of glass figures, their cores containing the ashes of our worst moment, transformed into something new. "It's us," my mother whispered. "It's who we are now," I corrected. "Not perfect, not unbroken, but stronger where we were broken." Ezra and Mara found us still there, admiring the piece. Ready to call it a night, boss? Ezra asked. I looked at my family, really looked at them. At my father's proud smile, my mother's gentle touch, my siblings' relaxed poses. At how far we'd come from that night, they'd tried to disown me. Actually, I said, I think we're just getting started. The chandelier above caught the last light of day, sending fragments of rainbow across the showroom floor. Like family, like art, like life itself, sometimes the most beautiful things come from knowing exactly which pieces to keep, which to transform, and which to let go. Come on, I told them all. Let's go home. And this time, I knew exactly what that meant.